your gavel and your chips.
I did not need the gavel now because all of a sudden everybody got really, really quiet. I'm not sure why.
We saw the
Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. This is our study session. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Sorry. Denise Chapman.
Hi.
Amy Doran.
Here.
Don Kirk.
Here.
Barbara Cruz.
Here?
Alexander Lessem.
Here.
Nancy Rumpel.
Nancy, she
Oh,
said.
here.
And Nancy, we do have to say the pledge.
Oh,
So, please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, we need to approve the agenda. So are there any changes to the agenda for today's study session, May 7th, 2025? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So moved. Second?
First from Nancy, a second from Stu. And Laura, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Alexander Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumpel.
Aye.
Thank you, Laura Lee. And we're gonna begin our evening with some school presentations. We have, I'm not sure which school is going first.
New Vision.
New Vision is? So the New Vision will present for us first, so come on up.
Thank you guys all so much for inviting us to come and share some awesome things that's happening at New Vision Charter School. I'm Mary Baker, I'm the K-4 principal, and we are here with some amazing fourth grade students in our fourth grade team. Our fourth grade team is Lindsay McElroy, Kelly Burnett, Mega Resho, and Rebecca White. And we're gonna be presenting on a project that started just out of a lot of passion and wanting to see our fourth grade students grow as amazing writers. And so our project goals for this is just to get our kids writing and get our kids excited about writing, building that growth mindset in I am a writer and I can do this and I can be very, very successful. So we had three main project goals. The first one was to get our kids goal setting, to help them set goals that they could achieve and see that success within writing. We wanted our kids to have some student voice and choice, and again, build that growth mindset to say, I am a writer, I can do this, I can be very successful. And third was to build community partnership. We are so very blessed at New Vision Charter School to have such an incredible PTO, and one of our PTO president is with us this evening, because we wanted to build a partnership between the PTO and our fourth grade students to celebrate the writing and the success of our students. So this all started with a PLC conversation in January. We did a middle of the year writing assessment, and what we found is that kids were growing. We found that kids were able to do the assessment, but there was still that struggle. We heard a lot of, I can't do this is hard, and that didn't set okay with us. So as we had that conversation and started to brainstorm, we came up with this project to again help our kids set individual growth, to be able to set a goal, reach that goal, and celebrate that goal, and build that growth mindset. And so as the teachers and the students go through this tonight, I hope you see that we achieved our mission with this project. So I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. McElroy.
So, as Mrs. Becker said, it all started with a goal. So we came up with this idea to fill a jar with ping pong balls. And the idea was that each student would fill with at least two of their individual goals being met. So we all built bulletin boards, and then all the names were on there. And so as they reached their goals, we moved their sticky notes around to the board as they met each goal, because they all started at a different place based on what the needs were on that mid-year assessment. And then we were able to keep track of what they were doing. No, you're good. Keep track of everything. So the goal was to fill the jar.
So once we had the idea that we wanted our students to fill the jar with all their ping pong balls, we wanted to conduct some additional research so that we had some really solid instructional goals for our students moving forward with this project. So our first goal was timely feedback. And so we read the writing rope written by Joan Sedita, and this was a great text that really helped us to dive into some great research around writing. And Joan Sedita has different writing strands that focus on skills for students to become more automatic in their writing and strategic in their writing. So we wanted students to first focus on timely feedback. So one of our goals was collaboration, because Joan Sedita suggests we have all of these wonderful students who know how to listen to and support one another. So once they knew what their individual goal was, they got feedback from one another before then coming to the teacher to get feedback from the adult in the room. So that way they had that sounding board before they submitted that piece of writing for our feedback. And then our second goal was to really simplify how students were planning writing. There are 3 different types of writing that students focus on in 4th grade, including informational writing, narrative writing, and opinion writing. And there are a litany of graphic organizers to support students with that. So we landed on 2 column notes because it is a consistent structure that students can use for all 3 types of writing. And once we were able to teach them that structure, they could apply it to all 3. And at first, students were a little skeptical. They weren't really sure how 2 column notes were gonna work out. But then I had one of my students come up to me and say, Mrs. Burnett, I wasn't really sure about this whole 2 column note thing, but I can see how it could be really useful for all kinds of writing. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what we were going for. And we knew it worked because when students were doing independent writing during WIN time or Daily 3, they were really using that graphic organizer independently and not prompted by teachers. And then the third thing that Joan Sedita really supported us with is writing across all content areas. Because oftentimes we think that writing has to happen in writing class, but we are a core knowledge school, so one of the things that we really focus on is building knowledge for our students. And Joan Sedita suggests that content writing is a way to promote and deepen content learning. Now I'm going to hand it over to our lovely student, Eden.
We needed a way to tell our teachers that we achieved our goal because, of course, we couldn't allow them to just tell our teachers when we thought that we achieved a goal because possibly they didn't. So we came up with the sticky note system. When a student wrote an essay that they thought applied to their goal, they would turn in a sticky note to the teacher so she or he could check their writing to make sure that all of the things that it mentioned applied to the goal that they were assigned.
One of the goals that we had to reach was I will have a clear topic sentence and a conclusion. I will use a variety of transitions between ideas. And I met goal number 5 on my geology essay.
Goal 2 is I will develop my ideas by giving supporting details. I will cite text evidence using a direct or indirect quote. And I showed this goal in my types of rocks essay. I used cups in this essay. I also used some interesting words in this essay. This is how I used this goal in my essay.
Goal number 3 was I will use interesting words related to my topic. I will have sentence variety such as an exclamation mark, question mark, period, or short, medium, or long sentences. Another goal I did was goal number 6, only several topics.
Number 4 is I will go back and check my cups and be sure my sentences are complete. I met goal 2 by turning in my no red ink assignment on a sticky note to get a ping pong ball.
Number 5 is I will expand my writing to 3 or more paragraphs. I will use a hook before my topic sentence. I will fully expand my ideas. I worked on goal number 3. I turned in a geology research paper to get a ping pong ball and to achieve this goal.
Goal number 6 is I can compose a multi-paragraph response that has a developed introduction with an engaging hook and clear topic sentence. Excellent work choice, including the use of figurative language and red supporting detail that truly developed my ideas. I was really proud of goal number 3. It was my geology essay because I expanded my paragraph and it was really long.
We brainstormed ideas by raising our hands and sharing ideas we liked and were interested in. Some of the ideas were the Chilton Rec Center pool, PJ Day along with Steffi and movie day, a lot of extra recess and today. Most people wanted to go to Loveland Laser Tag. Then all the teachers got together and decided on Loveland Laser Tag for 2 reasons. One, it was close, and two, we had to spend money on buses, so it made it more affordable for all students. Then we came to a problem. We did not have enough money. Then we decided to get PTO involved. We asked them for a lot of money. We wrote to them to show how much improvement we have made. They were really impressed with how well we were doing and decided to fund the trip.
Yeah, so I'm Jamie with PTO, and fourth grade team came to us in March and asked if we would, they had a great presentation, full of lots of letters written by the fourth grade students asking us to help fund their trip for their goal if they reach their goal. And so I'm going to read you just a piece of one of those letters. Dear PTO, pew pew, beat, stomp stomp, sweet sounds of Loveland Laser Tag. The fourth grade has been working really hard to earn a trip to Loveland Laser Tag by earning ping pong balls to fill our writing goals jar. And as of now, it is almost full. The cost to take all 110 fourth grade students to Loveland Laser Tag, it will cost a whopping $1,100. Now that's a lot. And it went on, and there were several like this, and so PTO voted that night to fund the trip if they met their goals, which they did, and then they wrote us a bunch of thank you notes and printed off this great banner.
As a part of reaching our goal, we thought it was so important to practice our skills not only during writing instruction, like Mrs. Burnett said, but across all subjects. So we were writing nonstop. We wrote in Colorado history and science independently during our win time, quick writes on just a prompt that students were giving, and then larger writing projects. One of my students told me that when they went to bed at night, they dreamed about 2-column notes. Mission accomplished.
So once we finished our goals, we went to LLT, and we had access to all the arcade games, and we got to play 2 rounds of laser tag, and it was fun because we got to hang out with our friends there.
Well, my favorite part of Loveland Laser Tag was the arcade games. We got a card that let us play unlimited games. And
my favorite was the arcade because I got to choose any game I wanted. Like she said, you got unlimited games. My favorite of them was the Floor is Lava.
my favorite part of Loveland Laser Tag was playing laser tag with all my friends.
Overall, our students were able to grow in student voice, and they also were able to show that voice in their writing, which was really awesome to see. We feel like our students were able to accomplish these goals with the incentives that we provided for them, and we are extremely grateful for our community partners. Without Loveland Laser Tag, our PTO has a lot of community partners too to make our dreams come true. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us share.
Let me check to see if we have questions. Yeah. We always do questions. Amy, any questions?
The balls. So did everybody have a different color, or what is the meaning of the?
So it wasn't color coordinated,
Okay.
but
Okay.
we did have students put the number of the goal that they achieved.
Okay.
And so that way, every time a student submitted a sticky note, we called that out, like, Claire, please put a ball for goal number 5, and we would show how they had earned that goal so that they could learn from each other by looking at those exemplary examples of student work.
Awesome, and you all are amazing public speakers, so
Yes,
thank you.
you did very well. Alexandra?
How long of a process was this?
So we started in January, and we worked through end of March in order to reach that goal.
Okay, cool.
Good. Okay, I think it's Dawn down there.
Great job, thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Denise,
Thank you guys.
any questions? Nancy?
Oh.
How many of you are gonna keep writing during the summer so you don't lose your 2
Good
columns?
Good question.
We get an all-expense trip.
And then you can do 2 columns.
That's right.
In the morning, in the afternoon.
That's right.
I can do this one, and then this one.
Stu.
I have a question for the PTO president. If the board decides we'd like to go to Loveland Laser, and quite right, will you fund it? And then will you guys come along and help us do it?
I would love to do that.
Cool.
Loveland Laser Tag is an amazing community partner. They give schools an amazing deal to
That's
take,
great
like,
to
even
know.
I know schools within town, like, outside of New Vision get to go there, and they do such a great job, helping, like, kids do this, so it's really cool that they got, you know, it's better than just going to a park and a popsicle, you know, like, for this reward. We didn't think it was gonna happen, and then we're like, well, let's ask. And Mrs. Baker was like, why not? So,
Excellent, thank you, thank you, I'm very impressed.
Should we do a
Thank you.
picture?
Yes, let's do a picture. Have them just,
Yeah, just, I mean, there's so many people. Let's have you stay seated and turn around for me and face
Oh.
this way. Nope. Well, I mean, because of all the,
yeah.
all the folks. I mean,
where are you gonna be?
well, it's okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and stand up. There's fewer there than I thought. So, okay.
They took care of that.
They did. Yep.
They solved the issue.
Yep, they solved it.
Yes.
Jimmy, you are real silver.
Okay. Let's see if we can do this. Still a lot. Lots of people. We're getting there. Okay. On three. 1, 2, 3. Good. Thanks.
Is Loveland Classical here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Just, there were so many kids I couldn't tell. Okay, our next school is Loveland Classical. So, they gonna come up front or, okay, they're there, okay.
Good evening, Thompson School District Board of Education and Superintendent Schaefer. Thank you for the opportunity to share about our school year at Loveland Classical Schools. My name is Cherise Sandoval. I'm entering Colorado State University in the fall to study sociology and criminal justice. And I was awarded scholarships beyond a full tuition and living expenses for my time at CSU. We are happy to share that LCS was again designated a School of Distinction in the Thompson School District. We appreciate the support and partnership from Thompson School District as a school of choice in Loveland and Burkett. I'm excited to share that this year's graduating class has collectively been awarded $550,000 in scholarship offers this year, averaging $27,741 per recipient and $440,000 in renewal scholarships so far. As examples, we have students attending Arizona State University, Embry-Riddle for aerospace engineering, Colorado College with a full tuition scholarship, and 2 students with a full ride scholarships to Colorado Mesa University for nursing. In addition to the scholarship offers shared above, 3 of our graduates are attending Loveland Classical's partnership with Front Range's Ascent program for a full-year free tuition at Front Range Colorado College next year. I'm also excited to share about our senior theses, which are wrapping up this week, with topics on what is the good life, ranging from the path to happiness is through meaningful connection with others, while serving as a light, finding the beauty in each individual to treat everyone with compassion in our shared humanity. The importance of having a firm foundation like the roots of a tree, while also being open to improvements towards continual growth. The importance of serving others as the path towards meaning, and with meaning comes purpose and true fulfillment. That the path to the good life is one lived with a strong mind and a soft heart, to quote Martin Luther King. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brooke Bryant, and I'm an 8th grade student. I will be presenting on extracurricular activities at LCS. Middle school and high school clubs include math lab, fencing, debate, chess, wrestling, yearbook, spelling bee, battle of the books, junior National Art Honor Society. Our music program achieved some all-state distinctions this year. We had 3 students selected for the High School League Honor Orchestra. We had 2 students selected for the High School League Honor Band. Also, we had 1 student selected for All-State Band. Further, we had had 7 students selected for the Middle School League Honor Orchestra, and 5 students selected for the Middle School League Honor Band, and 1 student selected for the CU Middle School Boulder Band. We had 1 student selected, in our choir program, we had 6 all-state high school participants for choir. I am also happy to share that our middle school Battle of the Books 7th and 8th grade team won first place within the district.
Greetings. My name is Naomi Hewitt, and I am a junior at LCS, and I will be presenting on this year's student athletics updates. In the middle school, the LCS boys cross country were NCIL League champions this year and last year. Our middle school boys soccer were the NCIL League champions this year and last year. Our middle school girls soccer were the NCIL League runner-up this year and last year. While our middle school girls basketball were the NCIL League semifinalists. And our middle school boys basketball have been in the NCIL League champions every year since 2022 season through this year. And in the LCS high school, the LCS boys cross country were the 2A state meet. We're in the 2A state meet, and we're 5th place. And our girls cross country were the 2A state meet 7th place team. Our LCS boys soccer were the Foothills League champions this year and last year. And we're 2A regional semifinalists in the top 8 in the state. Our boys basketball were the Foothills League champions last year and runner-up this year. And we're again 2A state qualifier this year. And our high school girls soccer are the Foothills League champions this school year and are currently in the state quarterfinals, while they were also state quarterfinalists last year in the top 8 in the state.
Hello, Thompson School District Board of Education and Superintendent Schaefer. My name is Rafael Bartz. I am an 8th grade student at LCS.
My name is Mariah Hirota, and I am also an 8th grade student at LCS. Raphael and I will be presenting on leadership opportunities and achievements.
This year, we had approximately 40 middle school mentees participating in our Lions Made program. This is a mentorship program for middle school students. Within this program, a select number of middle schoolers are paired up with high school students based on teacher recommendations. Within this program, our middle school students received assistance and confidence building in their time spent with their high school mentor. Furthermore, a middle school house system was officially rolled out this year. There were 12 to 14 middle school student leaders who provided direction and influence to their teams. They are positive assets to their teams and will continue to have more leadership opportunities as the program grows and progresses within the following years.
In the Lions Mane program, we had approximately 40 high school mentors. High school students provided middle school mentees with assistance in organization, homework, social peer interactions, etc. Students met weekly with their mentees to support them. This was the 2nd year of this program here at LCS. Additionally, the Student Council planned the field trip to the Estes Park YMCA with the 8th and 9th graders for the 2nd year. This trip helped sprout growth and fostered community building between our middle school and high school in this off-campus weekend-long event. Students participated in team challenges, bonding, and friendship building. It was an awesome weekend.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to share and the opportunity to attend a school of choice within the Thompson School District. Have a great evening.
We might have some questions. Let's start with Alexandra this time. Any questions?
I don't. That was great. Thank you for sharing all your information.
Don?
Just thank you. It was very informative.
Yeah, you guys are very, very well spoken and lots of awards, music, the scholarships, love it.
Stu?
Thanks for sharing things about Loveland Classical that we didn't know.
I appreciate you coming in and taking the time. Well organized. Amy?
I appreciate that you came in with just you. You didn't have a teacher introduce you or anything.
Yeah.
You guys just sort of did your own thing. I love that. So thank you very much.
Picture?
We would, yeah, we'd like to take a picture.
We're big on
And it's all about you guys.
I'm good in the front. Anywhere.
mind if I had everyone slide this way a little bit for me, just a little bit more centered? Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. Now, we have another unusual event for us tonight. We have 2 presentations from the Superintendent's Advisory Group. And you want to tell them a little bit about what we're going to do? Okay.
So we, this is a group of about 30 high school students from all of our schools across the district, including Level Classical or our high schools. In this year, students selected a couple of topics to research and then provide some proposals, policy proposals for the Board of Education. So the group has have met with me and other members of our senior leadership team to develop these proposals as these presentations. I think we met a grand total of 5 times. So it was, getting right to work, putting the presentations together. They did present to all of the high school principals and other senior leaders. We did a dry run with Stu and Barb last week. And so today we have representatives from the group that will present to you on 2 topics. I'm not going to take anything away from them, so I'm going to just turn it over. If you wouldn't mind also introducing yourselves and then going right in.
I'm Ivy Merrill. I'm a junior at Loveland High School.
I'm Rachel McGoo. I'm a junior at Loveland Classical.
And I'm Caleb Neerman, and I'm a senior at Mountain View. All right, so this is our presentation. It's going to be talking about, it's a whole umbrella of things having to do with course offerings. And our Strive 2025 connections are going to be most closely tied to Focus Area 1, Student Achievement, and Focus Area 3, Human Talent. We believe that increased accessibility to coursework will move students forward in life as healthy and strong individuals, and also that ensuring students are able to increase course flexibility will ensure we create the most impactful learning conditions for all students.
So ultimately what we found is that the biggest issue of surrounding high school course loads was the timing. There just isn't enough time for students to find the passions that they want, dive deep into them, and then get prepared for life after college. Ultimately, this sets them up for failure when they're going into college, trade school, workforce, whatever it is after high school. Many students front load their required courseworks, which are intended to help them find their passions. For example, health classes are supposed to set you up for success after high school, but counselors often suggest that you take it your freshman year as to not overlap with any courses that you want to take your senior year. You end up forgetting the curriculum, and it's not applicable to life after high school. And there are students who commit to like 2-year programs, such as the nursing program at TCC, but for a lot of kids, this is too big of a commitment, and you can't give up 2 years of your life for something that you're not sure you're passionate about.
So why are these issues arising? Current graduation requirements are not encouraging students to step out of their comfort zones and explore those career paths that are available but not often talked about. And curriculum for some required classes, for example, health, as she stated, seem to appeal more to the younger audiences, which causes a standard to front load these courses. And while the Thompson School District does offer various career exploration opportunities, very few of these schools allow students to simply just dip their feet and try something with little consequences.
So one of the solutions that we came up with, or more of a proposal, is ensuring that courses and course curriculums are age specific. So we have a few of the schools in the district, I know specifically Mountain View and Thompson Valley, that have a required freshman seminar for all students coming into the high school, and this helps transitioning into high school. We kind of all agreed that that was a very good thing for students, and to kind of continue that, extend the use of that to other schools. And then in addition to that, also make upperclassmen specific courses. So again, like a health curriculum that would more air towards showing how to have healthy lifestyles moving out of high school and kind of that adulting idea, as well as social emotional learning, financial literacy, and learning how to manage finances. And these would be courses kind of conversing from freshman summer. They would help transition out of high school.
And then another one of our propositions is quarter-long classes, so that students can better enjoy their time inside high school. So if we're finding these passions, a lot of times you can't commit to a semester-long class even, especially as you become an upperclassman, while you're trying to get all your graduation requirements. And to fix this problem, we propose the quarter-long classes, and especially those ones with health or financial literacy. You want to either dumb those down to like a very concise quarter-long class, or you want to make the elective requirements that you need to graduate, you want to make those front-loaded and post-loaded. So you want that to happen without the 4 years of high school, not just in the first 2.
Communication class offerings, the teachers do know best, and from knowing students better to having experience teaching these classes that are offered, teachers are able to lead students in a better direction than counselors would be able to, who have a general idea of everything. So teachers should recommend within their department, math teachers discuss math class or offerings, English teachers discuss English, science teachers teach science and whatnot, and promoting courses during class time will maximize student awareness. Because as I say, these counselors only have general knowledge over everything. And so if we were able to do assemblies or have these teachers, while in their math class or going into general classes like this, teaching and speaking about all these classes that they're doing, we're able to be knowledgeable of what our school is offering and what sounds more appealing to us as the students.
Yeah, so that's going to continue. Communication is the biggest thing here. I think overall, Thompson School District does a good job with promoting or at least offering career opportunities. But the issue is that a lot of students, for one reason or another, as we've kind of talked about in this presentation, just don't take advantage of them fully. So just making sure we're continuing to promote opportunities through announcements and assemblies. And then a big thing is having a dedicated time where students can ask teachers or counselors about course opportunities, intern and apprenticeships, and all those additional things to help kind of set them toward a career in high school. Because in the current system, you often have to leave class or get a pass to go talk to a counselor, and it's getting rid of like class time, and it's very discouraging for students to be able to do that.
And then any questions, or how can we elaborate?
Okay, let's start with Dawn. If you have questions for them.
I do. I have 2 questions, so I don't know if you want me to do one and then come back.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Just ask one and we'll see how.
Okay. So I do like the idea that there would be kind of a guide that stretches out your high school stuff so you're not pushing it all early. But I also know that right this very minute, there are students who are still trying to get stuff in, to get it graded, to get it in time to graduate, because every assignment matters for some students. And so while I'm familiar with what you described, I'm also familiar with the other side of that. And I wondered how well that was represented in your brainstorming. Like, did you have students there who are at the end of their senior year working hard to get every assignment in?
To be honest, no, that was not represented. We are all generally high-performing students who worked on this issue. However, one of the things that we offered that might help with that were the quarter-long classes. So those electives that you're cramming at the end of your senior year to make sure you get all the credits you need to graduate. If those were better spread out, there wouldn't be as much stress at the end of the high school year.
Denise?
I'm just wondering, I know a lot of seniors end up with 5 courses instead of 8, and
Yep.
Potentially this might be a good way to lure some people into taking a few more classes if they see it directly targeting the graduating senior and offering real world things that now are all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to need to know how to do that, which maybe wasn't relevant when we learned about it in health 4 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have in our group, we have students from Mountain View, Thompson Valley, Loveland, Berthoud, and Loveland Classical, and all of us saw that kind of trend where a lot of seniors are kind of winding down at the end of the year and not really taking full advantage of all the great things, such as like free concurrent enrollment and college courses through Thompson Valley and TCC, and all these advantages that are given to you for free and won't be free the very next year. So and that was one of our big priorities for sure, trying to make sure that we're splitting the course load more evenly instead of dying down.
That's great. I think that's an important distinction that we should all be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Free education is, you're not gonna get it again.
Yeah.
Everybody should be maxing out.
That builds into our communication piece, because a lot of the time teachers have a connection with students that the counselor just doesn't, because of how limited our counseling office is. Like, you have one counselor for 200 students at some schools, and they just don't have the time to go through and teach every kid about the opportunities that are available. So the hope is that with better teacher-student communication, they can know about what is available, like concurrent enrollment classes.
Thank you.
Nancy?
So today at the Impact Award Breakfast, there were two and I don't remember their name, but there are two interns that they're learning all about social media and marketing, which it was interesting. The one girl said that apparently you students are really particular and picky, and it's hard to figure out what you want. But I'm wondering if there's a way to take this new internship program with using the social media platforms and combine it with what you were talking about with the teachers who are really knowledgeable about math, because that's what they do, or science, and finding a way to incorporate all of this together so that the social media, because everybody's, and then that way you can push it out that way, and maybe it would help expand that intern program, because maybe we might need more interns. So just to help get it out there, because again, the teachers, when they're in the class with you, they're trying to get through all the material. So maybe there's a way of taking what your idea is and then matching it up with this new intern social media marketing program, and that's being done by students and put them together. I don't know if that.
I think that's incredibly possible. Kalea Marler, who actually is the head of the social media internship right now for the student end, she's in the student advisory committee.
She was actually at the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe she's one of the ones.
Okay, I couldn't remember that.
So that feels like very plausible, very possible idea.
Yeah, and I run the Stuco LCS page for Instagram, and I also speak on the morning announcements. And I know that a lot of students don't listen to morning announcements, or they can't hear it at all. And so I actually do get more people paying attention to the social media pages for Spirit Week or whatever that may be. And so I think that'd be a really great thing to incorporate into it.
Great job.
Stu?
Yeah, something I didn't get a chance to share with you the other day when Barb and I met with you is that our district used to have a high school curriculum that was quarter-based. So moving forward, it's not like we would have no idea of how to make this work, because for a number of years, almost all of the high school courses were 1 quarter in length. So thought I would share that with you moving forward, particularly he's the only one who's a senior, so assuming that you two will be part of the group again next year, if this is something that you want to pursue, then ask for somebody to do some digging and find out how the quarter system actually worked when it was incorporated several years ago.
That's awesome, I didn't know that. Do you know off the top of your head why we switched off of the quarter system?
I don't
Were there
know
major
that.
problems with it?
I don't know that.
Okay. Thank you for
But somebody, I think, probably could find that out for you.
Thank you.
Nice job. I had a chance to ask questions the other day, so I'll send it over to Amy.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just love the concept, we do a lot of nurturing at the transitions from, 5th to 6th, and then 8th to 9th grade. But, we don't nurture that transition from high school, 12th grade after. So I appreciate that, because it's, we take a lot for granted in that transition. So I think focusing on that was awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Alexandra?
Yeah, I agree on that. I really like the idea of like the financial literacy piece and stuff like that. And I also really think the idea of having the shorter bits to just try things out is great. Cause like you said, there's, the TCC programs, the pathways are awesome, for kids who wanna get into that, but lots of kids don't know. And so I think having other options that aren't as much of a commitment is a good idea. So good job.
Dawn, did you get your questions answered?
No.
Okay.
So the other one was, I was thinking about implementation, and since you guys have been working on it for a while and meeting several times, I wondered what your span was to other groups. So like I'm thinking about how staff always has a different perspective to add, right? Like a teacher is gonna say, okay, yes, but
maybe this, right? And so I was thinking about the groups like the admin, counselors, teachers, alternative programs, and TCC. And so, you know, as I think about how solid so much of this is, it, you know, the next step is to make sure we get input from the other people who are going to be impacted. I wondered how much of that you had already done.
We did present to the principals of all our schools. I don't believe there was any major criticism or feedback. Do you guys?
No, well, even later that day, I got called down to the administrative office, and I was talking to our principal, Tom White, and the counselor, and they were already coming up with ideas on how to change that financial literacy piece and other ideas, and they thought it was a really great concept.
When you talked to all the principals, was it of all of the high schools across the district?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay. Awesome. That's a good start. So thank you.
Thank you, you guys.
Yeah.
Stick around, we'll wanna do a picture, okay?
Okay.
As we switch out, and, you know, hang in there, there might be some changes that might happen, one never knows, we have a new superintendent. They may have some new ideas. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll
Great
switch
job,
to the
guys.
other group, good job, you guys. Take a deep breath, it'll be good.
My name is Trevor Leidig, and I'm a junior at Thompson Valley.
My name is Ethan Novak, and I'm a freshman at Berthoud High School.
My name is Sam Caldwell. I am a senior at Berthoud High School.
So our issue that we were talking about this semester was substance abuse. So our STRAC 2025 connection was with Focus Area 1, Student Achievement. So we decided that the social, emotional, and the mental health play a huge role in substance abuse throughout many students. It can be a cause in some situations. And our Focus Area 2 was inclusive and supportive culture. So the support of the students who are dealing with the substance abuse can often lead to lessen cases and help them throughout their journey of rehabilitation. So our focus was that substance abuse has been a growing problem in the district for years. And many of these previous ways to discipline and remove the substance abuse and lessen it from our schools have had minor impacts. The suspensions and the referrals and the law enforcement intervention have victimized students, forcing them to hide their issues. When hidden, these students can find themselves in vulnerable situations, ending up worse off before when they don't show the people who matter really what is happening. So what we know is that in each case of substance abuse, it can have multiple different causes, right? So these range from peer pressure and negative home models to mental health and stressful school situations. It is important to acknowledge the difference between each of these cases, as we can create these individualized plans to help rehabilitate these students and slow the impact of the substance abuse, and sometimes before it even starts.
So the common mindset in addressing substance abuse is more of a focus on punishment rather than actually addressing the problems. And we believe that this mindset needs to be changed for the better, because we don't believe that it helps people at all. It's really just punishing them for their actions. And by focusing on rehabilitation rather than punishment, we believe this can go to the root of the issue. And this will also help eliminate the mental health issues of the users. And there's several reasons one may go to the substances. Of course, escape, because they may be escaping from their life situation. And one of the major ones is peer pressure, because you see groups of people who go to substances, and for example, if one person from a friend group is using substances, the whole one will be using it. So they're kind of trying to fit in. And also influence from older people. If, for example, somebody's dad or, I don't know, older brother is using substances, then they may be drawn to and also have more access to that. So yes, we have to avoid isolating and punishing students and focus on reformation and rehabilitation. There's several reasons to do this. We can provide opportunities for new coping mechanisms. We could advertise safe spaces. Try to avoid punishment as much as possible, provide them resources and a recourse, and then inform them the long-term consequences of these substances, and think of the why. and we're aware of the legal issues that this topic can cause. However, we can control the things we do outside of that.
We would also like to implement PSAs. Avoiding drugs was a daily, was constantly advertised in elementary and middle schools, but now in high school, when the means and temptation are more prominent, the education around it kind of fizzles out. So we want to use data and statistics to offer facts, not just fear. We'd like to invite a speaker that has experienced the impact of substance abuse firsthand. We would like to offer a safe space to fall back on with reliable adults to ask for help and information about the problem, information about what the problem looks like internally. Realistically, nobody is going to go ask for help about something that they don't think is wrong. So what we need you as the board to do is help us to increase the education of the issue, including safety, long-term effects, new coping mechanisms, addressing why they started and kept using, and facts and stats. We also want you to help us increase resources and awareness, such as including real life stories and making rehab resources known. And just make the entire topic known. Advertise support publicly rather than kind of cherry picking who may or may not have this issue, so that everyone gets the knowledge. Does anyone have a question?
Okay, we'll start with Denise this time.
So, getting to the audience is always a challenge, and so I'd be interested in your perspective on, like, what are the best ways to target our high school population where you think they will absorb the message?
I think that the last group brought up a really good point of teenagers are on social media a lot. So I think that is one way that we could do that.
I mean, oh, you don't go.
I think that the personal connection within people is a lot of times an important aspect of that, because if you advertise something to an entire school, then other people within these different groups can then help out with their friends. And so it can come from a different vantage point of, rather than an administrator or a teacher or a counselor, it can come from someone who might have gone through the same situation previously and is known of these sources.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think what would work and be effective as well would be the real life stories of the people who've gone through this. I think that would actually stick into the people's mind much better.
Personalize it.
Nancy?
I have two. I don't know which one. I'll ask this one first. So it's interesting that you bring up that a lot of the PSAs that happen in elementary school, I didn't realize that we just kind of stopped doing them like once you get to high school. And I don't know when that started, because I believe when my girls were in Mountain View, which was a little while ago, they were still doing that. So it sounds like what you're asking for is that maybe whatever's working in elementary school, we continue it in middle school, we continue it in high school, obviously having to like tailor it to the different age groups, because it sounds like you said, you know, that in elementary school it did become effective. But then when you don't keep hearing it, you get to high school and it's as if you never heard it.
Right.
So,
and you get around friends that might have access to that stuff, so it's even more important to have that education.
right. What do you recall what PSAs were effective for you in I know it was a while ago for elementary school.
Do you guys remember that, like, I just kind of vaguely remember my gym teacher being like, you need to squat, because if you smoke, it's gonna burn a hole in your lungs, and then if you lean over, you're gonna have a mess to clean. Not sure why I remember that.
Well, it's that's for sure.
It was vivid.
Thank you.
So clearly, we just need to keep coming up.
Yeah.
with
I mean, the fear factor does work, but I do think that as we grow older, we do need actual
Different.
numbers to support it.
Okay, great point. Thank you.
Stu?
Yeah, since we talked the other day, I did think of one other thing to ask you. As you've been working on this for this school year, have you talked with any of our co-responders? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say the co-responder units?
I think so.
Okay, the co-responder units, it's a member of law enforcement along with someone who has a background in social work, et cetera, and they work as a team and deal with a whole variety of issues in the school district. So since you looked at me like, what are you talking about? It sounds like you didn't. So moving forward, as you move into another year, that may be some people that you would want to talk to also get some input as you're moving forward. Yeah.
I don't have anything more because I shared everything the last week, or whatever day it was.
Denise actually asked my question, but thank you very much for your time and for presenting. It's very good information, thoughtful.
Alexandra?
I don't have a question, but I think I would agree with the focus on real life stories. I think is important, and statistics, like while important, don't affect people in the same way, right, as hearing an actual story. And so I think that's a great piece to look at as far as that goes. And I also like your focus on sort of getting to the root cause of things, right? I think a lot of times we like to look at just how to fix things without looking at what the actual root cause is. And so I think that's a good thing as well. So thank you for your thoughtfulness.
Dawn?
So I'm trying not to nerd out. This is part of what I do.
Please nerd out. I want to hear the
Well,
nerd out.
with that said, there is more than what this is the tip of the iceberg, but some things that I think would be really helpful in the PSAs, because I love where you went and it's evidence-based. There's just some other aspects that I didn't notice in here, at least in my couple passes, and that is biological and environmental, and access to healthcare is really the number one thing that we can do to help keep people safe, and then access to harm reduction. So making sure that we have the means to keep people safe. And that stuff in the PSAs along with the real stories, because the stuff that we got taught when I was a kid, and then the stuff that is often what we share in middle school and elementary school is often caricatures, and then it doesn't look like that in real life. And so that's part of where the disconnect happens. And we hear that a lot from people with lived experience of just like, I didn't realize that it was going to be my best friend. I didn't realize it was going to be my brother. And I didn't realize it was going to look like this because everybody told me it was going to be a stranger and they were going to be in a trench coat and they were going to be scary. And instead it was hanging out with people I already trust, right? And so the more that we can do to really increase that awareness is really powerful. And I think that the spirit of that was in here a lot. I just kind of wanted to put some extra words in there that I think are also helpful, because I think also it's a lot harder to stigmatize what our bodies do than choices, and because we framed this issue as a choice issue and a self-control issue and moral, we make it even harder for people to get the support that they need to deal with something that's truly biological and what it is once it gets started. So I appreciate that you guys were so thoughtful in the work that you did. Thank you.
Did you have another question?
I did, because when I was reading this, it was brought up more than once. You're talking about the safe spaces. So when you say offering safe spaces, what was your thought or your intent, like within the school? And was it also your intent that these safe spaces so that a student would have somewhere to go, and gather themselves without disrupting the class, or, you know, what was your intent or thoughts around this?
I think Sam brought this up, but what was it? It was during a lunch or something. There was some kind of thing where students can meet with like a teacher and like it's like relax and study, something like that. But just areas during, for example, lunch or free periods where they can meet with other people. I mean, I think Sam said something. I don't know if
If I did, I don't remember it.
yeah.
Okay.
But it was implemented, I think, before, whether you could just be with, I guess, get support from other students. But,
Okay.
I think that safe space can also be figuratively in a sense of having those people that you can go to that won't like just turn you in and have you get punished for these things. And so you could go to them and say, hey, this is what's happening and people are telling me that I should come see you. How can I get help? And I think that can have a large impact, that if they know that there's somewhere they can go without basically just turning themselves in.
Okay. And maybe that's where the co-response.
Maybe.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, you guys. Caused a lot of reflection on our parts as well, so thank you. Yeah. Picture with
Both groups.
both groups. I'm sorry you had to wait. She would say kiss in the front, but maybe.
Some of the kids.
Man have some of the kids in the back.
Why?
I'm not saying there's a reason. I'm gonna slide this way just so poor Dawn gets stuck on the far end and I can't see her.
That's great.
And I
It's
can't see
fine.
her. Okay, there we go. Okay, on three. 1, 2, 3. Good, that'll work. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
All right, we are ready to, some agenda items now. So, I think we are on, I better get out this agenda, 6.1. And it's, the first reading of Exhibit JQ-E and the student fees. And we have Sarah and Theo. Hi.
Indeed. Lucky we get to go after the kids.
Right that
All
way.
this excitement right here tonight.
That's right.
That's right. Well, good evening, Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board. Sarah Rasmussen, Executive Director, nope, sorry, Interim Assistant Superintendent of Learning Services. And each year, we review current fees and courses, and we want to keep the board informed of any changes, increases, or additions. So I will turn it over to Theo Robison.
Yes, indeed. So, Dr. Schaefer, Madam President, members of the board, Theo Robison, Executive Director of Secondary Education. And so, just to give you a little bit of background, so the Colorado Revised Statute allows the district to collect fees based on increased costs and items that students will use as consumables and be able to take ownership of. So this is what this presentation will update us on tonight. And so, a summary of the fees that we're gonna be looking at are the first aid course fee will increase from $35 to $40. That fee is set by the Red Cross. Then also we have some new course fees through our Curriculum Improvement Council. And so in November, those fees were added as Applied Agriculture Technology for $25 per semester. And then also we have an officiating fee for our students that are $10 a semester. And so based on what you've heard, does the board have any questions?
Okay, let's just check. Questions?
It was pretty easy to understand.
Perfect.
So A++.
Just a quick question about officiating. I'm assuming this is officiating at athletic events?
So-
as opposed to funerals or weddings or things like that.
So it should be athletic events for sure.
Yeah.
And so that, it's a testing fee for CPR and first aid, is which requires that $10 fee.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Amy?
Nope.
Alexandra?
No questions.
Don? Denise?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very
No
much.
questions. All right. Next item is our literacy adoption.
Okay. Mine will not be 2 minutes. You gave me a good challenge.
Right.
Take 2, Sarah Rasmussen, assistant interim.
We'll give one more chance
You
after
get one
that.
more chance, okay. Interim assistant superintendent of learning services. And this evening, we are going to be talking to you briefly about the literacy adoption. As you know, we are in need of current, rigorous, and engaging literacy materials. During the past semester, we were able to pilot 2 selected curricula. At this point, I'll turn it over to Tiffany.
Great. Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board, Tiffany Jones, Director of Curriculum and Learning. I've got my title down. So as you can tell, Sarah did a great introduction of why we're here talking about literacy curriculum. So here are connections to Strive 2025. And I am going to start talking about the why. Why do we need this? And so ReadyGen is our current curriculum that we use right now. It's no longer actually on the CDE approved list for core materials. So that was one of our main reasons that we needed to look at something new. ReadyGen is also not aligned to the science of reading, and our elementary data is very stagnant right now. So we need a core curriculum that also aligns with the rigor of my perspectives that has been previously adopted, and we want to make sure the kids are ready for that as they transition to middle school. So I'll start off with our process. So when we started phase 1, we've got our literacy task force has created a great roadmap for everybody, a nice visual, to really start off saying where we started. What we did is we surveyed all teachers, were able to submit a survey with their core values. What do they believe that we are looking for, and what do they want us to look for in a curriculum for elementary? So every staff member in elementary had the opportunity to turn that survey in. And then we also included in that survey who wanted to be a part of this literacy task force. The group started off by looking at what is on the CDE approved list, and then we developed a rubric together as a task force that aligned directly with those core values from our teachers that they had submitted through the surveys. So phase 2 of our roadmap is we wanted to develop a pilot process after we had selected the curriculums. Every teacher who received the survey also said if they wanted to pilot. Different than the math, we allowed teachers to choose to pilot because we really wanted teachers to pilot both. So it wasn't where, if you remember in math, half the teachers piloted one and the other half piloted the other. Teachers had the chance or the opportunity to choice to make the pilot opportunity, and then both curriculums were piloted by the teacher. And so we wanted to make sure that we stated that because we got that feedback from the math adoption, and we wanted to make sure that was instilled in this adoption. Then we were also able to collect feedback from all students, stakeholders, our community. We had families, all of our administrators were able to give us feedback after the pilot or during the pilot was in process. So part 3 is all of the data was collected, and our literacy task force, who happens to be here tonight, and I'll introduce them in a second, went through each of the survey results. And so the data subcommittee went through every single response, and our CLT, our curriculum and learning team, actually got to do all the student interviews. We heard a lot of great feedback from our students. And then our task force created the considerations to pass forward to our executive team and obviously our board around professional development, what materials to purchase, and what are the tights and looses as we implement our curriculum. And then we will bring that obviously here tonight. That's what is on our roadmap, making sure that we put the best foot forward in what we are going to adopt for literacy. So, if you are a literacy task force member, would you just please stand? I know we've got Lisa, I know we've got Daniel back here.
Okay, I wondered who all these people were.
So I just wanted to point this team out because this team has spent hours really making sure our teachers and our families and our students have gone through a very transparent process. And so I just want to give a huge thank you to this group. We spend at least one night a month together. We spend a few long days together, but really this team and our team is about 20-ish people together, but we invited them here tonight to really just, one, say thank you, but also for them to share their support of putting this to the board for you all. So huge thank you. So I wanted to share that because again, we received that feedback of how do we really include our teachers. And so I have in our presentation that in addition to our curriculum and learning team, we included our task force every single step of the way. And we want to make sure that teacher and student voice is at the forefront of every single phase, and so everything goes through the task force. They voted on every step. They're getting very good at voting fist to 5 on everything. And so we just want to make sure that's very, very clear. And then we also created subcommittees as a part of our task force because some of our task force members have a certain interest in making sure we had professional development. They got to join the communication team, the professional learning team, because we really wanted to put some extra tasks on there where we brought it to a small group to determine, you know, what would be put forward then to the literacy task force. And then of course the literacy task force makes the recommendation to move forward with Benchmark Advanced and Benchmark Adelante. The Benchmark Adelante is for our dual schools. We really wanted to make sure one of our core values is that no matter whatever curriculum we move forward, it has that dual language component and we're not doing something different for our dual schools that is happening in our traditional schools. So that was one of the get-goes that it had to have that criteria from the get-go, so that's what Benchmark Adelante is. And a few stats for you all. We had 79 Thompson School District staff members participate in the pilot. And that includes our teachers, our interventionists, our coaches, etc. We had almost 1,300 students engaged in the pilot. Almost 26% of piloting students were met one-on-one with their feedback. Like I said, we did randomization on every class roster. So we got to talk to 26% of those 1,300 and got their feedback on one or the other curriculum. Sometimes it was the same kid. Again, we used a randomizer, so it was completely random that we didn't want to choose the exact same kids both times because we wanted more student voice. Every single building for elementary and K-8 was represented, and then we had all of these departments, either a part of the task force or a vetting process. And then we wanted to make sure that our parents and our community members were also able to complete those surveys. So our next steps, as most of you know, we're doing 2+2 meetings. Sarah and I get to meet with all of you and go in more in depth with each of the appendices. Sarah has the appendices printed right here, so we will go in a deeper dive and really explain what's in the appendices and a deeper dive into the process. We know that PD is still being finalized with negotiations, and we want to make sure we're doing exactly what we said we're going to do based on teacher feedback. And then also we need to order materials. A highlight is that our teachers are going to receive their teacher manuals prior to going on summer break. And so they're actually going to be delivered next week. The company has said that they are already being shipped and they will arrive in buildings because teachers said they really want to make sure that they have their manual for unit, they call it unit launch or unit 0, and unit 1 and 2, they want that before the break, and so we were able to fulfill that. And then our online platform integration will be very simple. Benchmark has committed to us that the moment I give them the green light after tonight, that they will turn that on for all teachers, not just piloting teachers. So teachers will all have access if you're an elementary staff member. And then we also are working with ELD and ESS to purchase that aligned curriculum because we really want to complement what's happening in Tier 1 instruction for ELD and ESS as well. Sarah and I will tell you a lot more in 2+2, but I want to make sure we have an opportunity to answer any questions.
Superstar Stu.
Yeah, Tiffany, you mentioned that the group has gotten used to and adept at maneuvering through 6-5 votes. Can you tell us some general areas where there was disagreement?
So it's fist of 5.
Fist
So
of
0 is a fist, meaning
Oh,
I
I'm sorry.
cannot support this decision.
I see.
And
I
a 5
misunderstood.
is like, I am on board and I want to help lead it. And so fist of 5. I would say if there were disagreements, I don't remember major disagreements.
I would say that when the task force had narrowed down the 5 choices
Mhm.
and that we had created that rubric, that was probably the most time where we had the opportunity to really dive deep, look into each of the materials, and then just coming up with those final ones that we really wanted to move forward to the pilot. You know, I would say that, and once we talked through it and you know, we were able to move on. But I would say, you know, there were a couple that were on the fence of that some of us maybe wanted to move forward versus not.
Okay. I understand why there wouldn't have been major disagreements when you said that it was fist to 5.
Yeah.
Everybody's in agreement just at various levels, but I thought you had said 6 to 5, and so I thought,
What is that?
what's responsible for that division? So, thank you.
Yep.
Any question?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say, you know, I really appreciate that you took to heart the feedback with the math curriculum. You know, and I think that it shows, you know, that we do take that feedback, you do learn, you do can change processes, you cast a very wide net for all of this. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Can those of you on the task force tell us who you are and where you're from?
I'm Jackie Hertzke. I'm a coordinator on the curriculum and learning team.
Hi, Jacqueline Connors, and I teach kindergarten at Lincoln.
I'm Kara Neve. I teach 3rd grade at Riverview. Robin McDonald, literacy specialist TOSA on the curriculum and learning team. Kitty LaFond, and I'm a PD coordinator.
Daniel Garcia, 4th grade Spanish teacher at Prescott.
Thank you.
I love this, and I can't wait to talk more. And I just want to say, don't work for free. I'm very excited that we'll have it before the end of the year, but at the same time, like, I know the urge to work all summer, and then we're exhausted. So nobody should work for free, ever. I know, but I have to say it out loud, and I'll say it as many times as you need me to. If we're not paying you, then, you know, and so thank you for getting it before the end of the year, because I know how important that is, and also, we need to do a much better job, we, in this circle, of making sure that we're paying people for their time, because you guys are valuable, and you deserve to be paid for your time. So thank you.
Denise?
Thank you for the rigor that you put into this, all of you. It's impressive to see just the process that's walked through, and so really excited to see what happens with the currently stagnant, but hopefully up into the right results with this change.
I have 2 questions. They should be quick. The first one is, I remember from the math, and so I remember there was talk about how what this was the prices and it was all inclusive, and then when we got to the budget, then I was surprised at how much the PD had jumped up, because it wasn't clearly explained that this is the cost from here, but that the PD internal costs were gonna go up. So I just wanna have understanding on the price that you have in here is all inclusive from the vendor, but do you know yet, like, what will that do to the professional development budget? Will we see a big jump, or is it gonna probably just kind of follow the same normal amount?
So at this point in time, the professional learning from the vendor is included in that cost. So it would be if we choose to do anything in addition to that, those curriculum materials, if we added additional professional learning, that would be separate.
Okay.
We're paying, they actually threw in 35 days of PD PD for our teachers, and that
Okay.
includes embedded coaching along with what that first day of training would be, informing everybody of what the platform looks like and what do all the materials look like, and how to use the materials. But we have 35 days that it's included already in that price.
Okay. And the second question came from when you were speaking, that they're already shipping some of the materials. So I'm guessing though, the price for those, the payment for those will go into next year's budget and not this year's?
So what they're shipping right now actually is free. They're
Okay.
throwing it in because it was one of the asks from our teachers that we get teacher manuals.
Okay.
We also know that we have asked for all materials to be delivered before July 1st, so June 30th might be our delivery date. The one thing that won't be delivered actually are the teacher manuals, because there's one more run. There's like 3 minor errors with a punctuation mark, and we want the newest edition printed, and that's not happening until July. And so right now, everything other than one teacher manual is being delivered before July 1st, so it should be this fiscal year.
Okay, great. And it's,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate that, it seems like this time that, there's a lot more teacher participation, and so the teacher, buy-in, I think, sounds like it's much higher, and so.
I think they're really excited to have a quality core material for students. And when I think about teacher load, they have everything they need in front of them versus having to go find and supplement. And that's what we heard loud and clear from the teachers, that everything is included. And so we're not having to spend so many more hours trying to kind of piece things together.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
they're excited about it.
Can I ask one more very little question?
Sure.
What is tights and looses?
Tights are what we like to nicely say, this is what you get to do or you have to do. Looses are where we feel like there's a little bit more looseness around what the expectations are.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to the 2+2.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, 6.4, determination, no. 6.3, Head Start Community Assessment. Hi, Lam.
Hi.
Sarah Rasmussen, Interim Assistant Superintendent of Learning Services. So this evening, we are going to be sharing, or I should say Lam is going to be sharing the information that was gathered through the Head Start Community Assessment. This is an annual assessment, and he's just going to share the findings of that.
So, Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board, Lam Carroll, Director of Early Childhood. I almost said I was going to be interim assistant superintendent. Sorry.
Been hearing that all night, haven't we?
I know. So our focus area is on student achievement, because we understand that having a good understanding of the needs of our community can have a profound effect on our students and how they succeed in school. And the other part is developing relationships with our families and partnerships with our communities is paramount in supporting our families. So we'll pick up on as a theme about its families and students. So that's what you'll see here. Again, the community assessment just provides a holistic view of our community. So, and more, the important part to point out is that we're providing the correct services to our families, to the population. So it covers the history, economic, political strain, and strengths and challenges. So the assessment covers a great deal of topics in our community, so demographics, and it says Head Start eligible students, so really it's everyone that we're taking a look at, educational needs, nutritional needs, and so on. So it is a comprehensive look that goes and is paired with a self-assessment that we complete each year to give us a better idea of how we can better serve our community and our families in our program. So, so this is a big change because we're going into a new 5-year grant period. So there's been lots of changes with Head Start recently, and so what they wanted us to do is reset our goals for the upcoming 26 to 30 grant period. So we've created a goal that ties directly to serving families and students, because we realize that by serving both, we have a better chance of creating better outcomes for our students if parents are supportive and know what their child needs, and we can help them in different ways so they can focus on that. So, if you looked at the memo, our purpose is we're looking really at the three areas of economic stability, behavioral health, and student health enrollment. And those three things are what we're gonna focus on for the next 5 years. So going to our first objective for the year one of the 5-year period is we're gonna work with families to provide positive solutions for families, and that's all of our Head Start families. So we're gonna measure that and see how they do, and then based on the outcomes at the end of the next, in 25-26, we'll adjust our objectives for the overall arching goal of what we presented here. Our objective 2 is, again, focusing on social health, social emotional health. So we're gonna engage parents in social emotional learning strategies through the program newsletter, but in addition to that, that's just a little piece. We are offering parent workshops to supplement that learning, both online and in person. And then what we look for to determine our success is that we do parent surveys every year. That's pretty comprehensive. And we do those at the beginning and at the end of the year to measure what they get. And then we also, our family engagement specialists engage in individual meetings with each family at the end of the year as well. Our objective 3 is that we're going to collaborate to our nutritional services and to provide nutrition education to 100% of our Head Start families. So what we really talk about are things like what are good sleep habits, what are good choices for meals, how do we exercise, and those kinds of things. So this is just more of a fancy way of saying that's what we're going to focus on for the upcoming cycle. So that's just to kind of, I don't know if you had a chance to look through the community assessment, and it's summarized in 5 slides, but it really captures the essence of the work that we'll be doing over the next 5 years. So, questions about the community assessment?
I get to start this time. So my question is, you're focusing on Head Start families, but are the other families that are not part of Head Start included in any of this, or are they not?
Yeah, they are completely included.
That's what I figured.
So
but I just
although
wanted
it
to-
focuses on Head Start, anyone who can benefit from the program, we offer it to them as well.
Perfect. That's what I figured it would be.
But because it's the Head Start grant, we specifically
Yes.
report out on Head Start students.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Amy.
You have a gift for condensing 71 pages into 5 slides, so that's pretty impressive. The parent workshops that you're going to be offering, is that aligned with the curriculum for parents? Or, okay.
Yes, exactly. Since we use Creative Curriculum, we partner with a group that provides the integrated nutritional education program, and that ties in directly with Creative Curriculum. So there's no, the neat thing is they provide the lessons and the food to go with the lessons. So it's a nice perk that we have with the program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Alexandra?
I don't have a question. I always love reading your community assessment. I don't know who of you writes it or gathers all the research or stuff like that, but I think it really does provide a wonderful snapshot of our community. And every year that I read it, I learn something new and different that I hadn't realized the year before. So
Yeah, thank you.
it's a great resource.
Yeah, thanks. And I want to give a shout out to, I'd like to give kudos to my team, Julie Lindsay and Krisha Short. They spent a lot of time working on this with me as well.
Well, they do a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Don?
Thank you.
Denise?
My question is, are the workshops dual language, or how do we provide
Oh, yeah,
support?
they are, we have either interpreters come in, or we have another Spanish teacher come in with those classes, depending on who's in the class. Yeah. Mhm.
Mine would apply to all the objectives, so I really like all the objectives, and I love, 100% A, but my question is, like, what's the how? Like, how are you gonna make sure 100% of Head Start families will have the opportunity to participate? I mean, like, and so on with all of them, and is there, I'm sure you must have the baseline number.
Right, so because it's the start of a new grant period, we set it at 100%, and then based on what we get is that becomes our baseline.
I see.
And then we set our objectives after that first year.
So what is your strategy to, what's the how of how you're gonna get
So
these?
hopefully by offering in person and virtual, that will get good attendance, but also because of those So the in-person ones, we also, like Amy attends the policy council meetings, and Stu has as well. They have we provide childcare and meals. So we try and remove the barriers that prevent them from coming. So it's things like that that hopefully will get them to entice them to come to these where they don't have to worry about other things, but instead can focus on learning. So then also the part about offering it virtually is that they can come. For some, it's hard to get home from work, get to our program. So by offering it virtually, hopefully they can dial in as well. And then the other part that I forgot to mention is that we're creating videos to also share with families. So if they don't have the opportunity to attend either one of those, they can go at their own leisure to attend those. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Stu?
Nothing additionally, I'll just kind of chime in with what Alexandra said, that your reports are always well written, and I too always find out something new about our Head Start program.
Great. Thanks, Stu.
Thank you, Lam.
Thank you.
We're all good.
Are those cats on your top?
I'm sorry?
What's on your top?
The flowers.
Flowers.
Yeah, spring.
Yeah, all the school glasses. All right, 6.4 is the termination of the YMCA lease agreement. Hi, Todd.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Education, Dr. Schaefer, Todd McConey, Assistant Superintendent Operations. So for tonight, a little background. Back in October 21, the board did release the building for community use. After that, we engaged the YMCA Northern Colorado to engage in a lease, so that's what you see attached. Really what we're here for tonight, over the last couple of years, the expense to transform the building into this community center for adults, a typical YMCA like you would see, was really too extensive for the YMCA to take on. So after working for quite some time with different jurisdictions, different processes, and how we could get there, it was just determined that it wasn't going to work out for them for a long-term solution. What we are doing is working on an agreement because they have preschool and infant care there to sustain that. So we're working on just a small use agreement like we would with any outside entity. And then we'll undergo a process next year with more of a community task force to figure out what the best next steps are for the building. So there's ideas and there's things floating out there, but without just coming here, we'll kind of settle, release this obligation if the board so chooses, and then go into next steps about what that'll look like. So, yeah, so that's where we're at. And I'll just say, the YMCA put a lot of time and effort, and we all did into this with the best hopes moving forward. It didn't work out, but it wasn't for lack of effort on entities getting there. It's just got to a point where financially didn't work out. So that is our next steps and plans for the Mary Blair building.
Okay, so we'll vote on it on the 21st.
Yes.
Okay. Amy, questions? Alexander?
No, my question about was if the early childhood programs were still gonna be in that building, and you said that they are, so.
Don? Denise?
No.
Nancy?
So on the early childhood, I guess it sounds like the idea is they'll do some sort of small lease just to keep that going there. The rest of the building, a community task force will talk about what are some ideas. With the amount of space that will be left to lease, how much will that be? Will it be enough for somebody to use?
Somebody or us, that's what will determine if it's, for needs of the district. So to answer your question, yes. So they're probably, when you look at the space they're using, it's only 4 classrooms. So 95% or 90% of the building is still going to be open for use. So yeah, and there's needs internally that we'll look at that have already been kind of thought about, and there might be an external, so it might be a mix of internal, external partnerships, and that's kind of what we'll go through. If there's private, kind of the private-public sector partnerships and how we, what that could look like is what we'll kind of work through.
And with what the YMCA ran into, does this mean whether it's the district or it's any private entity is gonna have problems remodeling that building?
Depending on the use, one of the challenge was because it was gonna go more towards an adult function, that changes the occupancy. And so when it changes the occupancy, there's different fire ratings you have to do between the sprinkling, the different walls, different structures. So possibly, depending on the use, it could run into that same thing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Stu?
No.
All right. I think you have to stay, because I
I did.
think you're on the next piece. It's 6.5, Director, District, Reboundary.
Yes, good evening again, and I have Ryan Baker, our planning manager, joining us tonight, so it won't be just myself. When we look at states, well, both our board policy and state statute, we are required to look at the population of the districts every 4 years. So we have done that, and really within the state statute, the two highlighted areas there is we try to keep them the same, similar, shape, size, but then also do a population to where Ryan will show you how close he got, but it's under 3%. So I'll let Ryan go through. I'm sorry, the next one. This is where we're currently at. You can see the different variations between 11% to over 15%. So there's a pretty good variation that puts us outside of that recommended variance. So I'll hand it over to Ryan, and he'll go through kind of how we got to the option tonight.
Madam President, Board of Education, Dr. Schaefer, thank you for having me. So methodology-wise, for 2025, I used Esri Demographics 2024 population counts. I enriched 2020 census blocks with those population counts, and then combined those to calculate the new director districts. Per council, the desired variance is less than 3%. And I really strived for as close as I can get.
We got very close to 0%.
Well, thank you. So, yes, I was trying to optimize for as little variance between population counts as possible, while still maintaining the overall essence and kind of neighborhood feeling of those director districts. So we can take a closer look.
Was it this one?
Next one. And again, so obviously some minor changes had to be made, but like I said, I was really trying to keep them as continuous and as similar to the previous as possible. So we have A and B up here. Like I said, minor changes, C and D. Try to get rid of a finger there, and D that reached up to make that central boundary a little bit more blocky, for lack of a better word. Next slide. And then G. I know we took away Heron Lakes but added Prairie Star back into Berthoud, which is still considered Berthoud. So.
Okay.
So staff are recommending as this option is it closely maintains the essence and shape of director districts while getting that population count under 0.5%.
So which ones actually changed?
They all
Did
changed.
they all change a lot? Or a little bit?
That was a little
If
bit.
you
There's
look at
there's just
the-
little.
If
If
you
you
look
can-
at like the
if you
red.
can see the
okay,
red.
Yeah, but was it the size changes, I mean, the shape changes, but is that a lot of population just to balance out the percentages? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
There was a couple of us who had 4 and 5% changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So number wise, I mean, you're talking like in the, one was 16,000, now they're all around 19,000.
Right,
So
okay.
it's just, yeah.
Questions?
So so this will be up for vote then in the next meeting,
Right,
but
okay.
It'll really be the same presentation, and then it'll be active.
As soon as you accept it, state statute says it's in play.
Are any of us
Well,
in the
that's what I
wrong
was-
place?
That
was my
Well, that's
question.
what
Did any of us
I
get
guess
booted
that's
off
what
the
I was
board?
getting at.
You did not.
Did you look
no.
at all of our addresses to make sure that we didn't change?
We did double check.
We have to hold
About
off on that.
Is now a good time, Mark?
Yeah. Superintendent and
That's what I was getting at.
No, nobody nobody is affected, and per state statute, if somebody were to be affected, you would be able to finish out your term before, if you were to run again, you'd have to run in a different district, so.
So it would apply for the next.
For the next, yes.
So that could be 3 or 2 years for somebody, right?
Providing somebody else wasn't already sitting in that spot.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If we were to change, nobody would be affected sitting at the state.
Ryan, at this point, do you know which schools are in which director district?
Off the top of my head, no.
That probably
Do
didn't
you-
change.
That probably, yeah.
Do you have that information available? The reason I'm asking is when I first came onto the board, Riverview was in my director district, then it wasn't in my director district. So I'm just curious whether Riverview is back in my director district
it is
and
not.
what the other schools are.
Maybe what we'll do is we could just supply the new map on the approval with where the schools are at. so
Okay,
you can
that would be
see
great.
what it is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really
I
what I'm
know
asking for.
Yeah.
the previous change was a little bit more radical change to the shape of the districts.
Okay.
I was trying to optimize for both population distribution and keeping the same
Okay.
shape in neighborhood.
I appreciate it. So,
Alexandra,
thank
you're
you.
E?
Mhm.
Okay.
Is it hard to change, like, the lookup? I mean, do you have to go in and redraw? Like, you know, where people on the school locator one, will that matter?
I'll have to go back on the back end and change that, but it's not a terribly hard thing to do.
Probably for you, no, since you got it almost to 0, it's probably like that.
It's just a little bit of updating files. So.
Are we good with questions, or do we have more? I kind of lost track of where we were.
I just wanna say that I know Lake Loveland is a pathetic little puddle right now, but it does still
It is.
exist, and in the new District E, you deleted it. So please put it back, it is still there.
It is?
It's filling as of today.
Did it start again?
Yeah, they are
Oh,
filling it.
good,
I
okay.
saw that.
I can certainly add it back into District E.
Thank you.
I really am impressed with how close you got.
Yeah,
it.
that's pretty
I
good.
mean, it doesn't even, I don't even know how you did that.
That's impressive.
Little changes,
A very detail-oriented person.
Thank goodness. Yeah,
You would
amazing.
expect that he would be detail-oriented.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we appreciate that. All right, Todd, I think you're still with us.
Yep.
A revised contract with Larimer County and Thompson Career Center grant.
Yes,
Yes.
so back in May of '24, the board approved a grant with Larimer County for the TCC expansion for $1 million. There was $1 million from Larimer County and $1 million from Bohemian. This is one of our audit items from, to kind of clean up. So in that old grant, which is attached, there was reference to federal funding, that this came from federal funding. It actually did not, it came from Larimer County funds, so the revised contract that's attached notes that it's from Larimer County funds, so then we don't have the federal grant requirements that was first noted. So the dollars stay the same, the process all stays the same, we just had to clean up the contract. So when the auditors come this year, we have the actual contract that says this is Larimer County funds, not federal funding. So that's the small modification, but that's what we need to do. And I'll say they're about a month from completing, just a little plug, they're about a month from completing the entire edition.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, so we went pretty well.
We'll work to schedule a tour so that you can
Great.
actually.
So next fall, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
And I think without quoting numbers,
It's
it's
full.
yeah.
It's full. I mean, there's a waiting list.
It
right?
is
So-
already, okay.
And we are accepting, or we have taken students from Pooter and Estes, because that was conditioned.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it filled. I'm working on doing evening and weekend pathways.
Good.
We'll see if we can get that done.
Just as you walk out the door.
As I walk up.
Boom, you
Just-
gotta do it.
We'll do it.
All right, any questions for Todd on the grant? Okay, we're gonna move on to 6.7, the contract for EV bus charging stations. Todd?
Yes. Next on our agenda is the contract for our EV bus charging station. So we have talked a lot about this topic and the buses. We've already approved the budgets. We were awarded both the EPA grant and the CDPHE grant, which included the buses, also included the charging for the buses. So this is to really approve just the contract to install the chargers at transportation. So we had everything else approved as we were going through, clean up everything. This is the last piece to kind of complete this project, was to say, okay, we need to get this contract approved. So that's what you'll see here. The charger cost, you'll see that's just as in the contract on the next slide, is $229. 107 of that is installation, and then 122 is the hardware and software. So that's actually what it takes to run the charging equipment. And then you'll see on the next slide the approximate location of where the chargers will be set for the buses. So, yeah, that is really it. We just want to get the contract in front of the board to show that that's the contract we're moving forward with. We went through a bidding process through purchasing to get our recommended contractor.
Let's start with Amy and we'll get back on track. No questions? Alexandra?
No.
Don? Denise?
No, thanks.
Nancy?
My only question is, it seemed like last month this was on the contracts greater than 50, and so now we're approving it again?
The budget was, we actually never came forward with the contract piece, so we got the budget approved on the 50, but the contract wasn't there. We had to come back with the contract.
I see,
Yeah.
okay.
Stu?
No.
All right. Thank you, Todd. One more thing? No.
No.
That's it. Thank you.
I'll be back again for that.
All right, 6.8 is the first reading policy, DID inventories and property accounting. Hi, Bob.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Schaefer, Bob Ebersol, Chief Financial Officer. I attended a conference at which it was announced that the federal government was updating the capitalization limits from $5,000 to $10,000, and the state is planning to, CDE is planning to follow suit on that within a month. What this does is it capitalizes our purchases for items that are over $10,000. So this is strictly a change of the dollar amount, and no change in the terms to match federal requirements.
That's it. Okay. Alexandra.
I do have a question. In the first paragraph, it says after July 1, 2001, administration will also maintain an inventory of infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. Since we're many years past July 1st, 2001, does that part need to still be in there?
It does, because
Okay.
that's when the inventory started.
Oh.
So some of the
okay.
structures would still be there. Many equipment has come in and gone out, but that's been taken out of the list, but this is when the policy started as far as when the inventory started.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Don? Denise?
No.
Nancy?
Very standard.
Stu?
Nope.
I don't have any. Amy?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you, Bob. All right, 6.9, probationary licensed staff contracts. Tom, welcome.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Schaefer, Tom Scherer, Director of Human Resources. Thank you for having me tonight. The 6.9 is basically the requirement for us to formally approve the renewal of contracts for a probationary staff member. So those have been part of the employee consent items that you've been doing, and there'll be some more today, and there'll be some more in the future, and things like that. It's a required obligation that we have by the state of Colorado to just make sure and notify that every spring.
Okay. Questions? I think we start with Don, I think. No?
None for me.
Questions? Stu?
It's the law, right? Tom?
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
It's the way it is.
Okay.
We just know that we have to do it each year. Thank you. Amy? Alexandra?
No.
All right. Thank you. And the next one is yours also, 6.10, 2025-2026 Thompson School District TSD organizational chart.
Yeah, so we have a update on the org chart. It's sad, but there's a TBD by the Human Resources Director. First time my name's not been in there in a while. And there's a couple other TBDs in there that we've soon to decide, but this is just an update. Structurally, I don't believe there's any changes to this at all, but it's just an update of where we're at with the org chart for the future, and some of the TBDs will be decided here very soon.
Yeah. All right, any questions on that, starting with Denise?
Questions?
Stu?
The only changes would be in names. There wouldn't be anything moving to a different location in the chart, is that correct?
Yes, at this time, there are no changes to where any of the divisions or the departments are within the divisions, or folks that are on this chart moving to any different areas.
Thank you.
Also.
Amy? Alexandra? Okay, thank you. All right. 6.11, this is the proclamation recognizing National Teacher Appreciation Week, which is currently right now, May 5 through 9, but we have a proclamation that we'll be reading at our next meeting. So if you're willing, or if you want, or have this desire, just let me know, because I'll ask somebody to read it. And then 6.12 is the standard action consent items that we normally have, that will be expanded, I'm sure, as we get closer to our next meeting. All right, any questions on any of that? All right. CASB report.
Okay. You should all have received the CASB report electronically. If you want to pull it up yourself or look at what Laura Lee has put on the screen, I only have about 5 things to say about it. Bob is going to support me and provide some additional information on one of them. I didn't hear that the legislative session did not end today. It was supposed to end today, and so I assume that it did. They do reserve the right to go into emergency session if they determine that there is some kind of an emergency. The wrap-up of significant legislation, and there has been a lot of legislation during the 2025 session, will be on May 22nd at 6 p.m. It's virtual. I've already registered for it. Laura Lee, is this something that if the board members contact you about registering for the legislative wrap-up for CASB, that you could take care of that for the board?
Yeah.
All right, so if you're available at 6 p.m. on May 22nd, then contact Laura Lee between now and then. Probably one of the most significant things that happened as a result of the this particular legislative session is the one that I highlighted, House Bill 251320, the School Finance Act. Despite a significant state budget deficit in 25-26, the K-12 appropriation will be approximately $192 more per student than this year, but due to enrollment losses, some districts will receive a level of state aid even if their student enrollment decreases. That will result in the appearance that they are getting less than this year, or even a $0 increase. So I actually received this information about 10 days ago. I shared it with Bob, and I asked him if he could give us a projection of how much more money that would mean for the Thompson School District. I spoke to him briefly tonight to see whether he was aware that anything had changed in regard to that figure. He said it had not. So Bob, do you want to share that information with the board?
So based on that calculation and what we heard through the Teachers Association as well, the assumption was that this was going to be slightly more than $2 million. Until the ink is signed, we don't know that for sure, but that's what we've been using for our budget process.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have a question either about the paragraph that I read to you or about the information that Bob just shared with you. Okay? Then I hope you have had an opportunity or will take the opportunity to read the summary of the bills that I provided for you. Something that we had talked about before is House Bill 251135, pardon me, communication devices in schools. Nothing has changed in regard to that I'm aware of. I'm sure by the time the legislative wrap-up happens on May 22nd, that if there actually was a vote, I'm not sure there has been a vote yet on that bill, that we'll know what that is. And assuming that that happens, we'll have direction then to know whether we do indeed have a lot of flexibility in regard to what that policy would look like. And the only other thing I will mention to you is House Bill 25-1274, which is the Healthy School Meals for All. This is very good news, I think, and this was, there was a lot of discussion about this. The legislature gave preliminary approval to send 2 tax proposals to voters in November. So whether they will both make the ballot, I don't know for sure. Dr. Schaefer, you may even be able to enter in through your knowledge with CASE. So let me finish what I'm going to say here, and then if you know something that I don't know about this, please join in. Both would increase funding for the Troubled Healthy School Meals program, and we won't take time now to discuss what the troubles are that program has had, because we've talked about that a little bit before. If neither proposal passes in November, this is the really good news. $8.1 million from the State Education Fund will be added to keep the program solvent through the end of 2025 due to the legislature's passing a different bill, which is Senate Bill 25-214. So Dr. Schaefer, do you know anything more about this particular bill?
Nothing more than what you said, although I can tell you that it is, it's very popular among school districts, and there's been a lot of support at the state level to maintain this program. So you can hear this reflected in the.
Question is, so it'll go through, it can fund it through the end of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So
Through
in the middle,
calendar year. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Yes.
the middle of next year it could change.
That's correct.
Okay.
Unless they would go into emergency session or they would do something else to change that.
Okay.
But at this point, that's what you're interpreting
Okay.
is
All right.
what it says.
Okay.
Okay, that's my report.
All right, thank you. Does anybody need to just get up and stretch, or are you off it and just
We
keep
take a
going?
break.
Huh?
We take a couple minute break.
Yeah, just a couple minute break. Yeah. Okay, everybody's back. Yahoo! Okay, 8.1. You guys awake over there? You've been sitting there a long time.
We were asking all the hard questions earlier, and we wanted to chime in on our questions, but we didn't.
District Accountability Committee, recommendation.
Name again, Sarah Rasmussen, Interim Assistant Superintendent of Learning Services.
Nailed it.
Yes.
Okay, so this evening, we have our district accountability feedback and recommendations and celebrations. This is a committee that meets on a monthly basis, and with us this evening, we have Brian Hurley, who is our DAC chair, and Ryan Moken, and he is our DAC co-chair. And I will turn the presentation over to these two.
So with most things, we always want to start our presentations out with our Strive 2025 connection. So with DAC, we always focus on student achievement, inclusive and supportive culture, human talent, and stewardship of resources. Because DAC is a primary stakeholder group in the TSD, we work closely with district staff, the Board of Education, and we provide recommendations. We review and monitor ongoing district goals and improvement efforts.
And speaking on the DAC charge history, in the summer of 2024, the Board of Education asked the District Accountability Committee to explore and provide feedback regarding 2 charges that were important to you, the board.
So through that process, we did something called the interest-based process, which includes story, interest, options, criteria, and straw design. And it's kind of more complicated than all that, but it's how we figured out what we wanted to talk to you about.
The first DAC charge consists of a study of student engagement, data trends to promote positive behavior. Student engagement includes attendance, learning behaviors, and discipline.
So this charge was given to us by you all last summer. So our first charge, our feedback, is the board should look at emphasis on increasing resources and support to foster student engagement and positive behavior. Those key suggestions would be higher wages for educators in order to attract and retain talent and create a consistent and stable learning environment. More school counseling to build better connections, improve transportation to support high school pathways, and additional support staff to reduce class sizes. Another is to create a clear and coordinated discipline policy that reinforces positive behavior and ensures families are well educated on the guidelines. To also reinforce the district's commitment to positive behavior, also ensuring sufficient mental health services for students, and encourage increased family and community involvement.
Moving on to the second charge, there was a study on climate culture survey results to make recommendations that will strengthen students' sense of belonging.
So for that second charge, our feedback is emphasis on consistent, personalized student support through regular check-ins by multiple school staff members, like counselors, principals, teachers, foster meaningful teacher-student relationships, smaller class sizes, building a sense of community through restorative practices, mentoring programs, partnerships with local businesses, and improved school and family partnerships. Additionally, providing developmentally appropriate interventions for middle and high school students, and retaining staff through improved salaries and better work environments. So you can see how through charge 1 and charge 2 there are some commonalities. So do you folks have any questions about or feedback about specifically the charges before we move on to celebrations and recommendations?
I feel like you took a really deep dive into them and really, as a group, processed with some ideas.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, and I've said this before, in previous years when I presented, it's kind of a very much a one-way conversation, and I may have like one or two little questions here and there on something, but I feel like, the DAC felt like we had some sort of power, and it was more of a two-way communication with you folks. And so I think in a year or even 6 months from now, the DAC may come to you and say, hey, what have you done with this?
Yeah, just to add to what Brian said, I thought our DAC committee this year was a lot more engaged. It was great working as a group with everybody. One of the things I'm most proud of is our 3 students that were involved in DAC this year, and that was huge. It really put the wind in our sails, and I thought we heard a lot. Student accountability, or your student team. That I'd like to visit them next year as maybe DAC.
Yeah, that definitely. I found huge value in them being involved. You just get a different. I feel like we talk a lot about. And I talked to Dr. Schaefer about this already. But I feel like we talk a lot about students, but we don't actually listen to them sometimes. And I think that it was a huge learning. I think even just sitting here today and understanding what their concerns are, it's really great. So, if no other questions on that, we can move on to the next. So statutory requirements for
Brian,
DAC.
just a minute, Nancy
Sorry.
has something.
I just was curious because you had it in both of them, which was increase the family and community engagement involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're saying that to the board that we need to do that, but I was just curious, did DAC come up with ideas on how they thought we could or should improve family and community involvement?
The only thing I can add to that right now is we put on hold from this year, hoping we can implement it next year as a community or a parent/guardian night that we're working on with DAC. itself. So
Yeah, so, yeah, someone gave a donation to DAC, and the whole idea was, behind it was to do something that could better the school system, better DAC, better, help students and parents and stuff like that, and so, just because of, people leaving, new people coming in and things like that, we felt like it was better to have something like this planned for the fall, and like Ryan said, so the idea would be, putting together some sort of event, whether it's like a symposium or kind of more like a career fair kind of like feel or vibe, where you'd have the ability to come and maybe talk to different people within the district. So if you're really interested in learning more about HR, you could talk to Bill or his team, or if you want to learn more about IT, you could talk to Kelly, or we talked about involving school resource officers, the police department coming in. Really, like, you have a question, but maybe you just don't know who to ask. And so that's kind of our hope. I mean, we all hope that, you can hope for more community and family involvement in the school district in general, but it's gonna look different in different schools. You're gonna have some schools where it's gonna be a lot harder, and some schools it's gonna be super easy, and it's kind of like a call to action, I guess, to every person in the district to try to figure out how we can be more involved in our students' lives, so.
Okay.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, but kind of offer something for everybody. A parent can come in, grab a few brochures and take off, or they can sit through somebody's 15-minute elevator speech on what they do in the district, and maybe have 4 of those set out in rooms in the admin building, just to kind of cater to everybody's schedule and try to get information out there to all our parents and guardians.
Yep, and it's all in a planning stage still.
Yeah.
Great. So as far as the DAC for our statutory requirements for the state of Colorado, the DAC, the District Accountability Committee, is responsible for making recommendations to the local school board.
So the DAC process: review and monitor the District Unified Improvement Plan, reviewed district performance and demographic data, including available local student and academic data, graduation data, attendance, chronic absenteeism data, and climate and culture data, reviewed career and technical education offerings and pathways. We reviewed comprehensive needs and assessment information. We reviewed in-depth consultation and program information from key district staff.
So for this year's DAC celebrations, we celebrate the steady and significant rise on-time graduation rates and commend the district's commitment to equity-focused interventions and strategies that help to elevate the district's performance framework score to its highest since 2016. Over the past 2 years, graduation rates have reached 90% and above, while the dropout rate continues to decline. We appreciate the ongoing efforts to positively promote alternatives to college, including the focused and effective work to expand career pathways, such as the Thompson Career Campus, and increase access to career and technical education opportunities for our students. We celebrate the family, student, and school partnerships, especially those highlighted through the Unified Sports Program. We celebrate that students' favorably ratings for school safety, emotional regulation, and perseverance remain steady or improved across all grade levels, as reflected in the Panorama Student Climate and Culture Survey results.
And as far as the 2024-25 DAC recommendations, the DAC recommends the district utilize culturally responsive recruitment, hiring, and retention practices to recruit and retain qualified staff. The DAC also recommends placing a greater emphasis on improving reading, writing, and math scores across the district, particularly in elementary and middle school, to strengthen literacy and academic achievement to better prepare students for high school and support overall student growth. DAC's recommendation is also continuing to prioritize climate and culture survey results to foster a stronger sense of student belonging, while also improving the survey by using more specific and objective questions as subjective ones can be interpreted differently by students.
The DAC recommends studying student behavior trends, including attendance, and ways to increase positive behavior and decrease undesirable behaviors. The DAC recommends increasing awareness of all available career and technical education options, beginning at the elementary and middle school levels to support long-term student success. The DAC recommends reviewing the effectiveness of iReady lessons to determine their impact on student learning growth and explore alternative programs that may offer more useful and actionable data. The DAC recommends clearly communicating the district's needs when proposing a mill and or bond, including a detailed explanation of what is on the ballot and how the funds will be utilized.
Does the board have any questions on that section?
I think we start with, is it you, Denise, this time? Did we start with you, Dawn, at once? Okay.
I love how comprehensive you've been in your approach here and, using the existing data sources to, understand, where the district is working together. And I think it's just impressive the work you've done, hitting on all these points. So thank you for your time. And this is, a volunteer role, and to everyone on DAC, we do appreciate the thoughtful responses you've had to the charges that we put out there. I'm interested in, I think the one on mill and bond in particular, is that's the story we're gonna have to build together. I mean, we have a long list over there of things from a facility side, but we can't do that alone. To get that heartfelt part of why this is important, DAC's a huge part of how we can get out and tell the story should we choose to go again. And the connections you have are important, so I see it as a continued partnership with you and the board working together to hopefully pass M1.
Nancy?
I love how you focus on the reading, me and reading. But I also thought it was interesting how you brought up looking at some alternative tools, methods besides iReady. And so I'm wondering, as I've been reading and learning more about the READ Act and that significant reading deficiencies and the READ plan and how many students we have on READ plans, I know that during my time on DAC, I don't think that was ever brought up. And so it was really eye-opening for me to start learning a lot about this. And I think it would also help with a lot of the students with dyslexia and other reading issues. So I don't know, Sarah, if there's a way for next year to take what they've recommended with looking at for something other than iReady, to then maybe combine it and spend more time doing a dive into the READ Act and what those READ plans look like, because maybe that might help you guys understand, and it might help the board understand and come up with some other ideas. But yeah, I agree with Denise that this just just feels more thoughtful, more detailed.
Yeah,
So
I
thank
think
you.
bringing up the iReady readiness kind of also goes into play with making sure that we're creating more emphasis on reading, writing, and math scores across the district. I mean, there's that saying where like at one point you are learning to read, and then at one point you start reading to learn. How do you help those kids in a dynamic situation that are behind, let's say 2 grade levels or something like that, and you have another student in the same exact class that's reading 2 grade levels above. We don't have any information specifically on what other programs other than iReady, but I mean, just like we heard from Tiffany and Theo, there's alternatives for everything for whatever reason. So is iReady the best one? We don't know, but it could be.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, what makes that recommendation special to me is it was recommended by a teacher in our district, so I take that seriously, so I thought that was a good one, and I'm really glad that it made it on the recommendation.
The 2 bullet points that I wanted to comment on were the last 2, and Denise and Nancy did a very thorough job discussing both of those and sharing their thoughts, and I agree with what they had to say, so no, I don't have anything additional.
Amy?
Yeah, these two paved the way, so I don't have anything additional to say, but, you know, very comprehensive and again, just more collaborative, it feels like.
Alexandra?
I think sort of a recurring theme through the night we've heard sort of from you and from our students earlier and stuff is looking at just expanding options and for the, you know, for the TCC, and you guys mentioned about like transportation to, you know, to the TCC and things like that, and so I feel like that's an area that all of us should sort of be aware of, is how to both communicating these options. You guys talk about doing that like in elementary and middle school, and I know we do that to some degree. They have, you know, like the visit TCC days for the middle schoolers and stuff like that, but I think, you know, and even from back to the students when they talked about just having the small little bites rather than committing to a 2-year thing. And so I think between making sure students are aware of all the opportunities they have, making sure that they can access them if they want to do them, whether that be a transportation issue or, you know, we talked about fees, right? If there's extra fees, whether it's a fee issue, or something like that. And then number 3, making sure that there are a variety of options that sort of meet different needs depending on how much of a commitment they want to make into that. And so I don't know what I don't really have a question or an answer.
Yeah.
I just think it's something that, like I said, has sort of been a recurring theme of the night that I think we should, all of us, take to heart and think about ways that we can actually make that happen.
Yeah, I think Dawn brought up a good point when she was asking the group of high schoolers where, I mean, my mom knew she wanted to be a nurse when she was in kindergarten, you know, so she knew what she wanted to be, and I'm in my 40s and have no clue what I want to do with my life. And so I think you have to, it's Drew's do, you have to think about it like that. Like if you gave the opportunity for a middle schooler or an elementary schooler to kind of like try to find their passion at that age, would it be different when they entered in high school? Would they be able to go and do that 2-year, you know, immersive thing, be an EMT or do the radiology tech thing or construction management or whatever have you? But you also have to look at the high school kid that is barely is just like trying to pass their last math final so they can graduate. They're not even thinking about, you know, like that's a June problem, you know, like I'm not worried about that right now. This is a May problem. And so, you know, how can you meet kids where they are, with how can you create a job out of what a kid already has a passion for? And the problem is they may just not know. They may not know what they're interested in.
Dawn?
No question, I would just say that these 15 slides are summarizing a bazillion pieces of data. You know, there's a lot behind this, and the process to get it narrowed down to this and have it cover so much so succinctly is really pretty amazing. And I appreciate the fact that with the charges, we're getting to sort of work with the same presentations, really. Like fundamentally, the presentations are drastically different than they have been in the past. But we're getting such better perspective on it because we were asked more, you know, we asked it in a different way, and so I appreciate seeing that. So we still have the recommendations and the celebrations, which are traditional, and the new charge information just gives a whole nother layer to it. And I guess the other thing I'd pass along is that the group was really curious, like, now what? Because we don't, we just made this up. Like, I would say that was a big curiosity. Everybody was really wondering, like, now what do we do with this? Because we've done something different. And the answer was essentially, we're still figuring it out, so.
Watch out, board, the DAC is gonna hold you accountable.
It was really nice watching the presentations before this because I think a couple of them filled in these recommendations.
Right, yes.
I mean, and we saw that from over there, so.
So we know we're not the only ones that are thinking like
Oh,
this,
yeah.
that there's other people in the district that are thinking the same things.
And, yeah, that's really nice to see.
Yeah.
You guys
Thank you,
work
guys.
hard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ryan, and I knew We had that same question about the whole, like, are you guys out for that one, the rezoning or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
We asked that question, I asked that question before Heat even did.
One more thing, I wanna thank Brian for his time on DAC.
Yep.
He's spent a lot of years and a lot of hard work, and I wanna acknowledge him for that and thank him.
Thanks, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
All right, 8.2 is Thompson Education Support Professionals Association. I want to just, first of all, before they come up, I just want to lay some foundation for this. Jana and Nate contacted us because, and Nancy and I talked to Teensy about it along the way, is negotiations happen, and then we always wonder, well, what's happening with classified? And in all the years I've been on the board, I've never had any information that was shared from the classified side of anything. Everybody just, it's like osmosis, it happens, and that's it. And nobody knows exactly who or why or where. So when Jana and Nate contacted Stu and I to just talk with us about TESPA, am I saying it right? Then I said, well, you know, just come talk to us about it. Tell us a little bit about it and what it is. Next month, in June, we will have, what's it called?
CSAC.
CSAC is the other organization that, how many of you know that there was or have ever?
It's another class.
It's another one for classified.
Oh.
I didn't know it either. So that's why I said, okay, so the board is gonna have a little education on TESPA and CSAC. So, there you go. I just wanted them to know why this all came about.
Thank you. Good evening, President Cruz, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board. We are very excited to have the opportunity to speak with you tonight. A little bit about me. My name is Jana Lewis, and I'm a building secretary at Riverview, and I'm president of TESPA, the Thompson Education Support Professional Association. I've been with the district for 21 years in a few different variety of job classifications.
Hello, members of the board, President Cruz, Dr. Schaefer. My name is Nate Donovan, and I serve as a school bus driver, so I like the smell of bus diesel exhaust in the morning, which eventually may be the smell of burning electrons. But we'll see. Those electric buses are expensive. I am the treasurer of the Thompson Educational Support Professionals Association, and I've been with the district for 7.5 years and been involved in K-12 education for 12 years.
Thank you. So, who is TESPA? TESPA, along with TEA, are a unit of Colorado Education Association, which is an affiliate of National Education Association, which is the largest union in our country. Members of TESPA are paraprofessionals, bus drivers, building secretaries, custodians, school nutrition workers, campus monitors, school health office assistants, library media assistants, and many more. There are actually 140 classified staff classifications in Thompson School District.
Wow.
Some of them are just like one person, but there are 140. Our members educate, protect, support the health of TSD students, and our work is essential to the operation of our district. The work we do ensures that every student in the district has the opportunity to succeed. Now we would like to walk you through our proposed recognition policy and why we believe each piece is important.
And before we do that, we'd like to point out the Strive 2025 connection that we believe classified staff and TESPA are part of. One would be student achievement, 2 would be human talent, 3 would be an inclusive and supportive culture, 4 would be stewardship of resources, and I know in your last presentation on DAC, it was mentioned about a consistent and stable learning environment, which we think classified employees make a big contribution toward. And I think it's important to also recognize classified staff's role in building trust between students and the adults who have student contact. And we're all in this together, even those employees that don't have student contact. But that's one of the most satisfying parts of my job, when I can mentor a student even though I don't see them for very long on the school bus. So, we started a couple of years ago with a more intensive outreach to classified staff through TESPA. And TESPA's been talking to classified staff to learn about the challenges they face and how they would like to address those challenges. We have met with and had listening sessions with several groups of employees. And a strong majority of classified staff have indicated that they would like to bargain a collective bargaining agreement with the Thompson School District so that they can address these challenges in collaboration with the district. Classified staff have indicated that their wages have not kept up with the cost of living, and this is a major concern for a majority of staff. They have to take additional jobs, depend on their spouses or family for support, or all too often leave to work in another district or leave their profession entirely.
So TESPA did a core request and found out that between last school year and February 28th of the current school year, TSD lost 196 classified staff. The same core request reported that 913 classified employees, so that's a turnover rate of 20%. Further, there were 30 open classified positions at the time of the core request in February. So in other words, 1 in every classified staff have left the district and the school year's not even over yet. While some of this is of course a result of retirements and demographic changes, we've talked to countless classified employees and ones that are leaving the district because they can't afford to work here. The damages and costs of the high turnover are significant that we feel, and qualified candidates are difficult or impossible to recruit. Training costs are high and remaining staff strained to fill the gaps or decide to leave and experienced staff are lost.
And on top of that are the impacts on students. When classified staff leave, relationships with the students are erased, and if the position is filled, the whole process starts again, which is the case with other staff positions that have student contact. These impacts are felt the most by our most vulnerable students, in particular our students in ESS programming. And wages are just one of the challenges classified staff would like to have a voice in. Members have reported concerns about safety, healthcare premiums, training, communication, and respect.
On May 21st, TESPA members will be sharing their concerns and stories with you regarding these matters. So today we just want to focus on the policy and why it's important to us. We will also be presenting petition signatures that we've collected from the majority of classified staff in Thompson, requesting that we be recognized by the district. Classified staff have seen TEA and TSD working together successfully through collective bargaining process for years, and we desire to have the same relationship. In order to ensure that all classified staff are represented in negotiations, TESPA must be recognized as the exclusive bargaining representative of classified staff. That would prevent fragmentation and confusion around who's represented and streamline the resolution of disputes. TESPA also has a duty to fair representation, like TEA, a legal standard which requires the union to represent all classified staff without prejudice. We seek to represent all classified staff in a collaborative process that benefits all parties. While we do understand that the district currently has a meet and confer process for classified staff, the majority of classified staff we have met with do not feel that this has been effective or there has been a collective voice at the table. In addition, while TESPA has collected voices and listened to various groups, it's become clear that they don't feel like the District Advisory Council represents the voices in classified staff in K-12 schools. We currently have 8 members on the CSAC, none of which are in K through 12 schools.
With respect, next slide please. With respect to orientation access, TESPA is seeking access to member orientations so that we can educate future classified staff about a future collective bargaining agreement, TESPA, and their rights at work. In the recent past, TESPA had been granted access to classified staff, professional development days, and provided breakfast to classified staff. In fact, that's how I became aware of TESPA, because there was a table at the PD day, and I think that was in early 2018. Our campaign to talk to all classified staff began in the spring of 2023, and Human Resources revoked TESPA's access to PD days the following fall. We have orientation language in the proposed recognition language because we believe it is important to reach all classified employees, and professional development days are a major opportunity to reach classified staff. We would prefer not to wait until a contract is signed to participate in PD days, so that we can collect feedback from all classified staff during the bargaining process for our first collective bargaining agreement. Further, TEA has language in their memorandum of understanding granting them access to licensed staff orientations, so granting this to TESPA would be in keeping with precedent and treat both organizations equally.
The second body of the text on this slide, commonly referred to as a neutrality agreement, protects the district as well as TESPA by clearly stating the classified staff right to self-determination, and that the district agrees not to take a position on who represents their staff. Essentially, we believe strongly that all staff should choose who represents them. Next slide, please. We believe that members of TESPA should have the right to meet with their representatives. Furthermore, because TESPA is seeking to be the exclusive representative of all classified staff, it would be important to access non-members as well to ensure their proper representation. This would also facilitate contract negotiations as representatives speak to staff about their preferences for bargaining. This is one of the reasons we're seeking this visitation language in the recognition policy prior to winning the first contract. Fundamentally, TESPA visitation rights will facilitate communication among classified employees. TESPA is also seeking this visitation language because we have encountered obstruction from a couple principals and directors that have impeded access to classified staff. TEA has a long and successful history of site visitation without incident, so again, there's precedent for this language. Additionally, this language has been used without incident for a long time in other districts, so it has been tested well.
With respect to information sharing, TESPA is asking for this information in order to facilitate bargaining prior to a first contract. You may ask, can't you get this information through a Colorado Open Record Act request? While we can currently do that and have periodically, there is pending legislation that could make obtaining this information in a timely manner difficult. And it's my understanding that that legislation got vetoed by the governor, and I don't think the legislature overrode it, but I'm not sure.
You're correct.
Okay. This information is also important to TESPA's ability to represent classified staff, as we need to know who we represent to represent them properly.
Next slide, please. So how will recognizing TESPA benefit the district? So TESPA would intend to function in a similar manner to TEA. TESPA would be able to reach out to all classified staff, listen to what's going well and what challenges they face. Like TEA, TESPA staff and leaders will collaborate with district leaders to help to improve our district. Membership in TESPA, like TEA, would be voluntary. The members of TESPA will be the driving force of what they want. TESPA has the ability, because of its connection to CEA and NEA, to help with MLO bond elections. TESPA is also equipped and has in the past advocated at the state and national level to work for legislation that benefits our students, schools, and our district. TESPA has been working with HR and management for several years to help solve problems and support classified staff. The current meet and confer system is limited in their ability to provide that support to classified staff. The district has had a classified council for many years with the intent of giving classified staff a voice. For many reasons, the structure has not been as effective as it could be. During our visits with classified staff, they have expressed a frustration that they do not feel like they have a voice. TESPA would provide that avenue for all classified staff. We feel strongly that the district recognizing TESPA would directly benefit Thompson and the community. While we're very aware, unfortunately, that Colorado is facing a funding crisis, we do feel that by giving a voice to our education professionals, this demonstrates that the board does value our professions. We commit to partnering to improve communication, employee recruitment and retention, partner to offer needed professional development in order to become the destination district for classified employees and Thompson staff, students, and the community.
And before we go to attempting to answer any questions, I would just like to thank you all for your patience and sitting through long meetings and reading volumes of information. I know those construction contracts are riveting when you're trying to get through those. Do you have any questions for us? Thank you so much for your time and consideration. We look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Okay, I think we start with Nancy this time. Questions?
First, this was really informative. You're telling me stuff I had no idea that even happened or existed. So I guess, so it sounds like TESPA already exists.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
Yes, correct.
So, I guess as a school board member, I'm confused as to every year why we don't really hear a lot about what the needs are of classified. So I guess, what's been your reason to be part of TESPA since you know the board, we don't even know what you guys are saying?
I would say, like my reason stems from long ago. I have a lot of value in my union membership. Starting with, Colorado and the local level, everything, I have great admiration for TEA and watch what they do collaborating with the district. We do have what you would call locals around the state that are recognized by their school board, and they do have a seat at the table with teachers and administrators. We don't have that here in Thompson. We've always had a meet and confer type system. We have always had TESPA. It's been within the last 2 years that we've grown substantially, and we've heard a lot of voices about people who they just want to have a voice.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate this opportunity. I think I still need to learn more, but I also know that I've heard from many other classified situations where they didn't feel like they were getting any resolution through HR and quit. So it's kind of like, so I appreciate you spending the time to educate us, and I look forward to learning more because I just still don't feel like I know enough, but I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
I would also add that, excuse me, go ahead.
No,
I'd also add that I have experience in the Poudre School District, both as a school bus driver and 8 years on the school board, and they have an association of classified employees that has an ACE council, and so that council works through issues and is kind of a intermediary between the classified staff and the superintendent and district leadership, but also that those ACE representatives have a seat at the table in negotiations. And I remember many times when we were talking to the superintendent and district cabinet that the classified perspective was always not necessarily front and center, but it was part of the process when we were trying to decide what the employee agreement was going to look like. So both for wages and working conditions.
Yeah, I think working conditions is probably the big thing. I mean, wages too, but.
Okay, Stu?
Yeah, I have 3 questions, but I think you can answer them really quickly. Which surrounding districts to Thompson have TESPA or an organization similar to TESPA?
So I know Vrain, Poudre has something similar, but it's not through CEA and NEA.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Windsor was working on that, or Weld County was working on theirs. Jeffco is a huge one. Jefferson County.
Denver Public Schools.
Denver Public Schools.
It's never been Colorado. Boulder Valley is. Yeah.
What did you say?
Boulder.
Boulder, okay.
And there's
Okay,
some
that
Colorado
answers
Springs and
that
Illinois.
question. The districts that have TESPA or a similar organization, do they offer release time for the leadership of the organization?
I think that kind of depends on membership. So not, they may have some that have part-time. I know Jefferson County has full-time release. They are huge though.
Okay,
Booter has full-time release.
for the
Association
ACE.
of Classified Employees, yes. they do.
Okay, and then my last question has to do with negotiations. Nate, you said that the TESPA representatives sit at the table. Did you mean that they actually negotiate with the teachers at the same time?
Yes, it's an
Yes.
interest-based bargaining process, and there are members of the Association of Classified Employees. The Poudre Education Association has their representatives, and then the administrators, the principals and assistant principals have their organization. They go to like CASE meetings, they're members of CASE. So the administrators have their representatives to the circle, the bargaining circle, and then the district administration and the superintendent represent the school board. So there's 4 in Poudre.
So all employee groups essentially sit down together or communicate with each other
Yes.
regarding negotiations on a regular basis?
Yes.
That's very interesting.
And the result of those negotiations is not necessarily the same percentage raise or
Yeah.
same wage structure for all the different ones. It might be a little different.
Okay, thanks.
Amy?
This is a lot of information presented in an amazing way. So thank you. It was eye-opening. I just want to say that the classified staff, you're the boots on the ground. You're the eyes and the ears. Being a nurse forever, I always say I'm only as good as my nursing assistants who are right there. I have to do all the paperwork and everything, but my nursing assistants, classified staff, you guys, you greet the kids each day on the bus. You greet the kids every day when they come in the door. My daughter with, the paras in her classroom in special ed, like, that's who she loves. That's who matters to her. She likes her teachers too, but, the para, it's just, so just thank you, for all the work that you do. You do touch lives. You, like every day, Mia's excited to, go see Miss Corey. Like, so, you matter a lot to kids and to parents, because I know that the paras are the one keeping the eyes on the kids. You greet the kids each day, and so this was touching. So thank you.
I might also add to that, I hope to share with you on May 21st. I was shocked and touched to get a note a couple weeks ago from a senior inviting me to her graduation party, and the note said something that I didn't even realize I had the impact that I did, and so it was very unique and touching. So that relationship with a trusted adult
Yep.
could be anyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alexandra?
No, thank you for this information. I quite frankly find it kind of shocking that you're not involved in negotiations. I feel like that should, to me, that just makes sense. Like you said about Poudre, like everybody sort of working together. If we want to be a cohesive, school district where everybody relies on everybody else and everybody can trust everybody else and everybody can work well with everybody else, I feel like everybody should be on equal footing and at the same table in regards to negotiations. And I think definitely from what you've shared, I think there's very, very valuable feedback from a lot of your you know, your members and your people. And I think, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, acknowledging, you know, sort of like Amy said about valuing our classified staff and showing that we care, and, you know, it sounds like we're not really doing a great job of that, you know, if there's, you know, these concerns, and so, you know, in my mind, if giving the classified staff a greater voice and a greater, you know, influence on their own lives and their own careers makes a lot of sense.
And I think it's good that you're gonna hear from CSAC.
Yeah.
Well, it's only fair.
Getting educated
Mhm.
about all the issues involved is important.
Yeah.
So you have all the information.
Dawn?
I just would build on what has already been said, which is that I think there are things that you get to see because of how each of you and the other 140 different positions we have interact with kids, and I think that we're better off for having that voice at the table, because I think of some really powerful things that have came out from just really us thinking about how powerful it is that you're both the first two people that people see every day, and like that change in mentality that came and what that's meant to our kids has been profound. And that's just one very simple thing that gets lost, and there's probably a million more where I know that you guys have had I know that you've done your best to engage in the ways that existed, and I think that there's great benefit, and I really deeply feel, especially that as an employee, it's so nice to have a third party who you can go to and find out the things that you might feel bad about asking somebody else, right? To just say, hey, is this real? Is this true? Am I seeing this right? I know I'm mad, so can you tell me, is this right? It's great, and so from a district perspective, I think that is invaluable, and there is an actual cost that we can put on the fact that you are that sounding board, actually, you already are. So, I appreciate that, and then I also had an aha putting two presentations together from our evening, and I don't like it at all, and so I just feel like now's the time to say it, because as much as we've worked on making sure that our starting wage for classified staff is, I mean, it's been a major focus in the time that I've been here, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done. And I've always known that it's also not enough. And to see the community assessment, which is coming from credible sort of resources, right? There's only two categories on here, the single adult or the single adult over the age of 65, where our new plan, anyway, starting wage would be able to live here. And that, to bookend what you've already told us in your data, this means that nobody with children and nobody with families can afford to work and live in our district. And that, of course, it doesn't work for the work that we do, right? That's a very big thing. And we need our community's help to make that change, but having your voice at the table allows us to see those things that we haven't always had that help us tell that story to our community. So thank you for what you've done this evening, and I obviously am supportive because it's hard for us to do it, and we all need to do it together.
Denise?
Yeah, I'm just, building on what my colleagues are saying. I had a real lack of awareness, and so this information is so helpful, the perspectives, bringing the whole of Thompson together and having their own equal footing makes a lot of sense. And I guess shame on me for never asking the question, why are we just negotiating with teachers, our licensed professionals? Yeah, so lots of light bulbs going on in my head tonight. Thank you.
thank you both. I think I said it at the start, is that it was always just, it was all three pay groups, but we never quite figured out. We just kind of, and we didn't ever ask any questions, and that's probably not the best thing for us at this point. So thank you. I think you are coming to the meeting to have your members share, but
Yeah.
we probably won't be doing any. We have to hear from other
Yeah.
people, and it'll be conversation that will still have to happen, more than likely over the summer or in August as we get back. But I appreciate all that you've shared, because my eyes are opened to something totally different than what I thought. So thank you.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Of course.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
And everyone you represent.
Thank you. All right, Todd, you're back. Bond and Mill polling results and recommendations.
Good evening again, Madam President and Board of Education, Dr. Schaefer, Todd Piccone, and I'm also joined by Mike. As you see in our agenda tonight, we thought it was important to not just talk about the polling results and its recommendations, but we've also talked a lot in this process about communication, community outreach, those pieces, and kind of what we're doing there. So Mike's gonna talk about that and all the extraordinary work he's been doing the last few months to get us to another level.
We've been working him hard.
That's okay.
Or the-
All right, so first we want to touch just a little bit about community outreach. So one of the biggest advantages that the recent polling that we've done with Mile High Public Affairs is that it's given us some really good data. And Todd and I will be talking about this here coming up, but it's given us some good data to help us kind of shape our messaging and to really better focus what we're talking about and who we're speaking to, who we're really working to reach out to within the community. The team at Mile High Public Affairs has been really good and kind of just guiding us through that work, helping us kind of look at the data at a more granular level to kind of determine what that means. They also have a lot of history working with other school districts in the state, so they've been able to kind of point out some pitfalls here and there, share with us some resources and some ideas of what has been effective at communicating in communities across the state, and to kind of move forward from there. The big thing that we're really doing right now is we're focusing on general education. Okay, so it's really about talking with people in our community about key things that we know that people are very confused about. And one of those big things, for example, is the idea that when your property taxes go up, that does not mean that Thompson School District gets more money. There are a lot of people, and this isn't just a Thompson thing. This is I would say just a K-12 education challenge in general. A lot of people believe that as their property values rise and they're paying more in taxes, that means that obviously the school districts are getting more money, and that's not true. As you know, what happens is it just decreases the amount of money that gets backfilled from the state to make that up. So that's an example of a key thing that we're really trying to educate voters on, just to really provide them with more information about how schools are funded, what comes to us from the state, what a bond does, what a mill levy override does, what it is used for, and why school districts do it so often, why they ask their voters for support so often, because it's just because of the way the funding model is set up. So we're using this through some video ads, a lot of social media, ad placements, some banner ads, things like that, to really just start that conversation. We'll also be working with some community partners and groups to really talk to them about that and to provide some education around just the things I talked about in terms of how we're funding and how bonding works and that sort of thing. I included there some sample social media slides that kind of gives you an idea of kind of like what that looks like with this first run. There's a link there, that link that says view more. If you want to see what that page is, you just go to tsd.org/funding, and that links to a page that's on our website. We've got some base level information there. I want to say thank you to Bob for helping us get some financial information we posted. We'll continue to add to this as we go. You'll see several FAQ questions that are on there, but we'll continue to add additional FAQ questions as we get asked those questions, and then also additional financial information and just other general information about that. So.
And I would just say before we get into this, the other goal behind this is regardless of, you know, our next conversation, you know, this is work that's happening, so it's that's ongoing and continuing and will continue, so it's not just because of going for something, this is happening, this is something that's just gonna continue and continue to push, so.
Yeah, just to dovetail on that, part of what we're really wanting to do is to take away this sense that I think the community often has, that we go through phases of talking about bonds and then asking, and then everything just valleys out, and then you don't hear anything, and then we talk about bonds and then everything valleys out. It's really more along the lines of building a long-range plan in terms of what we believe that the district is going to need over, you know, years and years and years, laying that out ahead of time, kind of taking the community on a journey with us, and to help them help us to plan stuff out so that they're not surprised as much.
So switching and then talking about the possible future here. In the last couple of months, as the board knows, we did a poll to the community, and I'll just go through the results. I know we've gone 2+2, so we've really done the detailed work behind this, but I'll just hit the highlights and then talk about possible next steps. So the poll results, we surveyed and polled 3 options. So one at the approximate 100 million no tax increase, a $220 million bond, and then a $13 million levy, special levy. You can see the results there. You know, when you look and you break down, there's a lot of momentum for the 100 million no tax. There is some momentum for the 220 tax impact, and then the mill kind of drops just a bit in its results. So when you look at what's really kind of I'll say the background, the next slide is the political mood. So this is, you know, those are the hard numbers where the polling came in. This is what really, you know, where our community's at. So there's some good things and there's some headwinds we're facing. The exciting thing that came out of the poll is that 83% of the respondents are very happy with their quality of life here in Loveland. So they love, you know, Loveland birth area. They love being here, they love the area, you know, so they're satisfied, you know, just more holistically with the area. Then we get into some of the probably the bigger challenge is the feeling of the economy and property taxes. So although people, you know, love being here, there's now this other feeling and weight of the property taxes are concerned and just the overall economy of where it's at. So these are some of the pieces that when we look at what are some possible next steps that we're trying to balance and weigh in. The perception of the school district is 56% positive, so that's kind of good. You know, it sits right in the middle to where it's, you know, that wasn't really a swayed one way or another. And the last bullet there is interesting because when you ask people if they would support a bond measure, they say, well, yeah, I would. But then you look at, you know, that's conceptually, but then you look at all the other, you know, factors that are pushing kind of the headwinds of the economy and the property taxes. That's where it gets a little more complicated into, you know, if that stuff wasn't there, just, you know, the quality of life here and, yeah, I would, but then we have, you know, some pretty strong issues the other way when you look at the economy and property taxes. When you look at the next slide, what messaging resonated with the community, those are the 3 bullet items you see there. So when we talked about, you know, if the community is going to support something, here's the 3 things that they would like to see within, you know, the language. That's the language that really resonates with people, that has a positive view of what they would see. And you'll see there on the last bullet point, the message on the mill levy is, even though we message teacher pay, you know, it goes down just a little bit too. So it's, again, it's just that interesting, shows the conflict between the bond and then possible capital mill. So just real quick on the methodology of it, there were 428 completed interviews. So I know there's questions around, was that enough? Was that, you know, enough number? They were hoping for around 300-ish. They got 428. And that's direct interviews with people that are likely voters. I think that's one of the big differences between this and then the last survey. This polling really was direct and specific to a likely voter. So that's why these results, and that's what these results are based off of. So you can read through the other pieces there as far as interview dates and margin of error. So now where does this kind of head us to? So there's an option that we'll look for and then kind of where the board is looking to go. On the next slide, you look at, if we look at the 100 million no tax impact, so this is something that's more likely, as I think we all heard from the consultant, it doesn't mean that it's easy to do and there's not a lot of work behind this. There would be still a lot of work behind it, like starting tomorrow, if we go this direction, because there's campaigning pieces, there's communication pieces, there's fundraising, all the pieces that our consultant's helping with. So in no way does this mean like, oh yeah, this is easy, let's just do this, we're done. But this is our most likely path to success. So this is what, as we estimate right now, we used 100 million as the planning level. It assumes a 7.5 assessed valuation increase. Bob and I will actually work with our bond consultant to figure out, kind of where we're landing on that. So it could go down slightly, it could go up a little bit, but 100 million is really the planning purpose for that. So what does that give us? Out of the 100 million, it gives 38 to maintenance needs, 12 million for safety and security, 44 towards growth, and that's just the Berthoud and Ivy additions, modifications, and then 6 million to enhancements, which includes some ED enhancements and then some just program space that we need to enhance. So you can see what that does not include. CT expansion, it would be AC at Berthoud and Ivy, but no AC other places in the district. It only touches about half of our critical needs, so it's really a decrease in our critical needs, and there's a summary slide at the end that shows what our overall needs are. And then no capacity mitigation at Turner, which we're okay because we do have time for that. So if you look at what that does in the next 4 or 5 years, it really wanted to show what the impact was. Although we need a lot more, this is really, when you look at a projected spend and how it does help us on those critical needs, it does help us for the next, say, 4 years-ish to capture those critical needs we have. So really the growth, the maintenance, and then there's a few safety items with vestibules we really need to complete. So that's just the initial approximate spending of that 100 million. So I thought it was just good to see, because you can see what the plan is moving forward. So our hope for tonight is just to gain understanding from the board if there is like an appetite to head this direction, because the work, as I mentioned, it's already been going, but we need to start now. If 100 million, if that's it, is we're feeling okay about that when I say we as the board. So we can start the work, because there's an immense amount of work to do to get to that November between, just timeline planning of the board officially voting then in August, all the back end work that needs to happen to really have a shot at a successful bond in November. So we have that, and I just wanted to also bring it back around for a full circle on the next slide, and just put out there, this is really our full needs. I think it's good to understand what the possibility is, but there's also a bigger understanding, and this is what Mike's team's working on, is there's a much bigger need out there than what this touches. So it's good to also understand that this is a continual conversation that just doesn't, like Mike said, this doesn't stop the roller coaster. We're on like this hill that we'll keep going on because we have to take care of these at some point. So is there any questions? And I'd like just maybe gain understanding so we can, staff and then the team that's sitting on the sideline can be ready to be activated if this is a direction we want to go.
Stu, do you have questions?
Do you have any kind of a sense of how much money is available out there to put toward the campaign? I know I'm not talking about district money, obviously, but either from developers, from corporations, whoever. Have you begun, or did the sampling company have an opportunity to do checking there, because I think we all know that one of the reasons that last year's initiative failed was there was a lack of money. And whether we're talking about money to fund $100 million or money to fund $220 million, some money is needed to do that. So where are we on that? Any idea?
Yeah, it's more than some. You know, the estimate's about $100,000 of donated funds to really run a proper campaign. I'll say, you know, staff can't really, you know, we're not in the position to go out and
No, I know
do
that.
But the game plan is put in place to garner that through. We really don't have the developer, you know, the large developer check, because we're not building a school. But what we do have is a lot of connections out there. We pay a lot of people a lot of money for different services, whether it be construction, curriculum. And that's really the strategic piece that Mile High's working on, is that's the work that needs to happen now. So they have a framework for how to happen, they have contacts for how to happen, and that's really some of the work that they'll do with, you know, some district volunteers to start that. So
$100,000 to fund the $100 million initiative.
Yeah, yeah. When you start talking to the 220 and then the mill, it's a stretch that you know, they are comfortable in saying, I think we can get this. When you talk about a range that they felt comfortable and move forward with, it was that you know, that 100 million range, with comfortable to, you know, fundraise that $100,000-ish for a campaign.
That was my question. Thank you.
Amy, any questions over any of this?
No, I don't have any questions. Again, I think it's important just to keep our story out there, and, you know, because the last slide, you know, we just need to keep, you know, that last slide. And no, I mean, our needs aren't getting any smaller as the days go on, and the cost isn't getting any less as the days go on. So, yeah, thank you.
Alexandra?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the work, you know, you're doing as far as the communication piece, and I know we've talked about like the leadership Thompson or whatever we call it. I mean, that thing I think is important. You know, the thing I think is interesting about this, from like having done our, you know, superintendent interviews last week, all of them talked about, you know, how it's so important to just have this sort of ongoing conversation, and how you can't just go and talk to people when you need something. You need to, it needs to be an ongoing thing. And so I think, you know, the work you're doing towards that and these other initiatives we talked about, I think are really important. That being said, we need to ask for money, you know, I mean, like, you know, like Amy said, you know, $100 million is great, that'll help. I mean, I didn't add up the numbers on this last slide, but that's like close to $1 billion.
It is.
And so, you know, our needs are pretty massive. And I think, again, you know, sort of the more, you know, the more we can share that, and the more we can, you know, help people understand, and engage people and get, you know, get support, I think is important to do.
So, yeah, I agree. And to your point, that's why, as we talk about this, communicate, it will always be in the context of like what you're asking for, but also how does that fit into an overall plan and stuff. So
Right.
yes, it's 100 million that, for example, if you were to want to do this, that you'd be doing here, but how does that slot into that big bucket of all the other needs that we got?
Right.
And inside that bucket, and this is real key, we have to be extraordinarily specific with people about what we're talking about when we're referring to projects and stuff. So we need to make sure that we're saying that if we have a school that we believe that 5 years from now is going to need a new boiler, we need to be putting that on the timeline so that we can get people used to knowing that this is coming up. So that it's not a surprise when we're talking to them about a roof that needs to be replaced or a boiler that needs to be replaced out and stuff. That it shouldn't be a surprise. We're going to be kind of designing this in kind of a little bit of a timeline type fashion on the website, where you'll be able to kind of see projects as they map out for as we see them, and then being able to go in there and to readjust them as we need to based on evaluations that happen, that sort of thing.
Done?
I was just gonna echo the same thing. First off, I like the Schoolhouse Rock look. I think that's kind of fun and nostalgic. And I am really this is kind of switching us into more of an ongoing educational piece. And also, I think just as important with this is our success stories, right? Which I think we try to get all of this out here. I always laugh when sitting here, listening to it front row, I'm like, don't you guys know? Because we heard it. But yeah, right, not everybody's watching this tonight. I don't know why. And even then, there's a lot to everything that goes on in the district that doesn't always come here. And so I appreciate that we are thinking about communication in a different way and in an ongoing way, because I think that we need it for a lot of good reasons, right? We are such an important part of why this is a great community, and people have to know that, because they don't always. It's easy to take it for granted. So I appreciate it. I think it's a great idea, and we have a one-time option of really being able to say no increase, and so I don't know that we can miss out on that and not kick ourselves for it no matter what. So that's kind of where my head's at, is on the big picture too.
Denise?
Yeah, we need to go, so, thank you for doing the groundwork laying that you're already doing. This seems like a safe play, as far as the number choices, so let's hope the voters think so.
Nancy?
Yeah, I agree, the no tax increase, I mean, this is the only year we have that option for quite some time. And it gives about 4 years or so space to look at building on other things. 2 suggestions or comments I have are, one, and I know that we used to have this, I'm pretty certain. I think it would be helpful if somewhere on the website we could keep and maintain like that ongoing rolling list of maintenance needs, so that anyone could look at their school and go, oh my gosh, this is what's wrong, here's something wrong with the school. I can go, I mean, almost like, volunteer day to go fix some seniors' houses, but also to give them more visibility on all of these things all the time. And on the video, I think it's a good approach. I think especially for the special levy, because it's important that we educate them correctly on what the special levy is, so that they don't think it's like a normal mill levy override, because there's a big difference. But I would ask Mike, maybe, and I know that the one you used has been used in other districts, but I guess I would ask if we could take the time to do some focus groups for you to run some stuff back, because when you're like in something, you think, oh, this makes such great, perfect sense, but if you showed it to somebody who's outside, they'd look at it and go, that makes like no sense. I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't believe that. I don't buy. I mean, I think a focus, and every district's different. So like Cherry Creek is obviously very different from Loveland, Colorado. So I would just really strongly encourage maybe the use of focus groups or something for some of the messaging. But yeah, I agree with the 100 million is, we need to do it.
So I see the 100 million being our starting point, and that we should jump in and do it this fall and let them see this is all we can get done with this amount, and then a year or 2 later we go back for, that's kind of where I am. I feel like we can't not do it right now, especially because this is the only year we can do that, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts.
So without taking a formal
Right.
vote, we just want to make sure is it the board's will for us to pursue the $100 million no tax option?
A fist to 5.
Well, we can just either nod our head or.
Can we be clear on whether that's
it's a mill or a bond. A bond.
I meant
it's
bond,
bond.
if I
A
said,
bond.
yeah, no, 100 mil would be.
Million.
He's a lot, really. $100 million bond.
Yeah.
And just one other thing, so thank you for that, that helps, it provides, to address the special levy. I mean, that's not that that's going away, because people are the thing, I mean, it's hard to put people on the slide, but that's like the important thing. It just doesn't fit with this right now, but, you know, as we talk about setting a roadmap for future asks, I mean, that's all part of, you know, the mill is all part of this future thinking of how do we then weave that in, and when is the communication done, you know, enough to, one, help people understand what a special mill is, because that was some feedback, looking at different bound language, we looked at Cherry Creeks already, and so there's already that starting too, it's just, so I don't wanna discount or not, you know, talk about that's as important, more important than this, but, you know, so that's part of the bigger piece too that's being thought about.
Well, and I think that's important too, from when we had our meetings with the Mile High Consultant people, they talked about that they felt like adding the mill on to this year would likely make both of them fail. Whereas keeping it just the bond, we stand a pretty good chance.
Todd, when might the board expect to take a formal action vote on this? Is this like in August? Is this in June? I mean, what's your?
Yeah, it'll probably be it would be late June, more likely August, would be it, so.
But we can begin everything.
Oh, yeah, so,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's a lot of
it's
work
just-
that, we don't need
okay.
the formal vote to do the work, where the work's gonna start, it's already
Okay.
started. It'll really, now we have the clear direction to say, okay, now this is what we need to do. It's really from what it is now, it's one-on-one meetings, you know, it's a lot of face-to-face, it's just that conversation with, our contacts, you know, the community members, and that's what we can really start strategizing now. One, for the campaign dollars, but two, just for communication. So the vote will probably be August, you know, we'll come back to the board and we'll update to make sure, but that was the initial thought now, is do it in August. When you actually, you know, approve to put it on the ballot.
Yeah, on a communication perspective, it allows us to start moving into more of the specifics around what like that measure would do, and then tying it into what it doesn't do. Yet. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
being very, very clear. So for example, that slide that Todd had on there about what's not included and stuff, being able to talk about that, being able to have specific examples in the buildings around things that are being flagged as being the priority for what's being targeted, that sort of stuff. So we move a little bit more from up here down into this is what you would do from what you get from a no tax increase bond.
What you get for your money.
Given the fact that the board does not meet in July, I would anticipate an update probably in June, maybe 2 updates in June, just to provide just status updates on where we are. Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll start immediately planning and engaging.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. 8.4, negotiations update. Tom, a little bit more detail, I guess.
Madam President, members of the board, Tom Shera, Director of Human Resources. I am joined by
Sue Timer, President of TEA. And Educator of Middle School.
Yes, you are.
We have a presentation to go through and questions from the board if necessary at the end. The Strive 2025 focus area is number 3 for human talent, and us two represent a 16-person negotiation team. We do have 2 other members in here with us. I'd like to recognize Bill Bate, longtime Thompson employee, Sarah Rasmussen, also on the negotiations team. And so we will provide some information regarding some specifics of our negotiations. The next slide is we'll review the highlights. This presentation was created 1st or 2nd of May, There will be some verbal updates, but the written updates will highlight the April 28th through the April 30th days that we met, those days. Bob Eversole gave us a state budget update, I think all 3 of the days, and he was also with us most of the days, all the time there. He was diving deep, so we appreciate his work and effort and his dedication to the district, being just jumping in right away. Really appreciate that.
And he had to give us a new update when we met on Monday.
Thanks. Lots of updates. So let's review the critical questions. Are on the next page there. I won't read through all of them, but I'll kind of reference them as we go through this negotiation session. We had 8 critical questions that were decided to be moved to negotiations. We also had 8 sessions, 8 different meetings that we've had, so those just concluded on Monday. So to start with here, we had question 7 update. Leave practices, and you can see in the red ink in the next couple of slides the changes that we made in the MOU, and we also had a couple other documents, the forms and things like that we had to update, providing some personal needs time up to 16 hours first. Donated day is typically used for support of other family members when a staff member needs some extra leave. And the task force that we had decided it would be very helpful to provide some personal needs time with that, because the other staff members donate time to staff members who need it. And so you'll see that listed through the next couple of pages, and strikeouts and just redefining how we do that. But the general definition of donated day still stays in play for anybody who needs extended amount of time, and they just have to provide the paperwork and turn in, submit that. Again, just relevant, redefining and clarifying language in there for specific things for question 7.
Question 4 addresses the problem-solving and grievance process, which is outlined in the MOU as well. Really, we were looking primarily for some clarity. There have been miscommunications in teachers' understanding of what some of the paperwork has asked for, and we were really looking just to clarify some things. So I believe the next page shares. Basically what we did is, in addition to the MOU, there's a partner handbook, teacher handbook, and that has the forms for both problem solving and grievance. And we just tried to clarify on the problem solving form what was done beforehand, and tried to be sure that people really had addressed the concern at the lowest level to get started, and we tried to clarify what got done ahead, including a suggestion of what the solution might be. But then there's another section, and this part of our work was dividing it into 2 parts, that's a summary of what comes out of that meeting. And then there's still the checkbox, yes, we solved it, or no, we didn't, and direction on there to send it on. And then on the grievance form, which I think on there, we really only updated, we improved language just a little bit, because it has said school and we changed it to building assignment. Just a little bit of cleanup of language, and also just clarified that completed one needs to go to HR and to TEA, so that we keep track of what has happened. And that's true for both problem solving and grievance, that they go on their way.
Okay, so at the time the presentation was created, we had consensus on those 2 questions, and since then we've come to consensus on the rest of this. So we'll give an update more verbally than what's on the presentation here. But question 2 about compensation, we've come to consensus about.
Elementary plan time.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Skip that. Elementary plan time. We've come to consensus on adding time for the elementary staff throughout the school year, a total of 24 hours of extended personalized and plan time for them at various days, and also a sub-day that they can choose to use for that time. Question 3 was the retaining quality professional, recruiting and retaining quality professionals. And we've come to a consensus and agreement on increasing the salary schedule for licensed staff, and also an increase to the extra duty salary schedule for athletics and activities, coaches and sponsors that will be detailed through the tentative agreement and ratified by the association here within the next couple weeks, and then potentially approved by the board in 2 weeks at that point. Question 5 is the TEA president's release time. The consensus agreement for that was to what Sue's currently doing in her position now is a halftime president's release and a halftime teacher within the district. And so the agreement is to split the cost of that so she can have full release time to get business taken care of during the workday, and she can attend all the meetings that she gets invited to. And she's seen a lot of meetings this last week, so bear with her. And then also what that really means is whatever position that is that is going to continue, the district's going to fund that position, what she's currently doing here in the next year.
Sure. So 6 was how do we address undesirable student behavior, and that can be a difficult one to figure how that fits within. Well, first of all, it's difficult to figure out how to handle. It's also difficult how to put that in a tentative agreement and/or the MOU. So we did create direction. We gave 2+2 direction to create a task force specifically to look at the discipline referral form. It's currently housed at Infinite Campus. It's quite tedious to fill out, so when a teacher has an issue, then if they take time to do that, then they're taking time from kids or from planning. It's pretty laborious. It does not allow, the system does not allow classified staff to fill one out, but we still ask them to supervise on the playground and in the cafeteria and all kinds of places, and then they have to tell it to somebody to put in, and it doesn't loop back. So there isn't if I submit a referral on a student, I don't find out that it got addressed. Some teachers, we kind of think maybe high school teachers, maybe middle school, I think maybe high school, get a system automated message that says it's been closed, but it doesn't tell them what happened, and other teachers don't even get that, so they don't even know if it's been addressed. So there's going to be a task force, and they've got a long list of bullets of things that they need to try to be sure are happening within that. So pretty strong work. There's also a piece we had previously agreed on some changes to site-based shared decision-making, but we did put 2 pieces about buildings addressing student behavior, the process for how it is handled, and having that done within, through the work of the site-based shared decision-making team. And there's one other element. Forgot my fingernails fell asleep. Oh, yes, thank you. So there is, all district staff assigned specific training in regard to, through a system called Public Works, and there is one piece that's currently in the handbook. At one point it was in the MOU, it's currently in the handbook that's actually board policy on the safety for staff. And that one will now become one of the PD pieces that we watch online, so that everybody is aware, and coupled with that are suggestions on how do you get help if there is a unsafe situation. I think we missed question 8. Question 8 is just cleaning up. We have to make sure dates fit. If we find spacing or punctuation errors or something like that, we do that kind of thing as well. So as of Monday evening late, we did have consensus on all of the items. So next steps, that's a team, so you can go ahead and share. These are people who've worked many, many, many hours together. Next step is that there is a tentative agreement that has now been signed by Tom and by our lead negotiator, who's our Vice President, Kayla Steele. So that will get put in PDF form and sent out to TEA members. We need to have 50% plus one give us a thumbs up on it. And really the problem with that is almost always just getting people to open the email and do it. Obviously our target is to have it well in advance, but definitely by May 21st, so your regular action meeting, and so that that can come back to you, and we can report to you at that time how that went.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind going just back a couple of slides. I just want to recognize our negotiation team. These individuals have worked hard, many of them on negotiations for many years. I'll speak for Sue at this time just because we have a great working relationship between the administrators and TEA through negotiations. We've worked really hard over the last decade or decades to build that relationship, trusting relationship. That is why we can get to the place of consensus, and that is why we can use that interest-based negotiation method to build on the district's successes and continue that from time. So those folks all deserve kudos for the work that they put in for this. And then yes, on the last slide, if the board has any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them this time.
Okay, and I get to go first, so I'm gonna ask you one. When you say recruit and retain, you talk always just about money. What else do you talk about with that? So that they see that there's something besides money that goes with the quality of situation here in our district. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what else? I mean, does TEA ever talk or brainstorm anything else about, during negotiations time, not just TEA, during negotiations?
Well, I think
all I heard was compensation.
Recruit and retain really is our compensation question, but there are all of the other elements. So years and years and years ago when I was on, we divided out into working conditions questions and the compensation and whatever. And really, so much of what we do look at in working condition behavior question is absolutely a recruit and retain question. And we can talk about that through all of these questions we talk about.
Yeah, that's really how some of the other critical questions become their own separate questions. So in the past few years, we have dove into a lot of questions about specific support personnel and how to increase numbers at certain areas in certain programs and things. And so that'll end up being a recruit and retain question to begin with. If we allocate funds for it to designate some positions and things like that, it'll definitely stay within there. But typically that will evolve into how is that affected needs? Are we addressing the needs of students and staff that way? And so yes, the behavior question, the plan time question, even the leave benefits question, all of those originate in the recruit and retain aspect of what we're talking about. And then eventually 2+2 decides this needs to be addressed separately, so we use it as a separate critical question at some point. Yeah.
That was a great question though.
Amy?
Good work, hard
Alex?
work, all work.
Alexandra?
No, thank you for all your work.
Don?
Good job, thanks.
Denise?
I may have just missed this, but, so there's 8 questions. But where is number 1 covered?
The site-based shared decision-making had been settled before, so a previous piece, but site-based shared decision-making, we tried to clarify, so each building is supposed to have a plan on how they make decisions for their building, and there's not been very much consistency. And of course, you want it to be site-based, but you also want to be sure that people have a chance to have a voice in the things that matter in that school. And so that actually was previously addressed. We did add the behavior pieces to that, though. So we had previously thumbs it up, so it didn't make this slideshow. And then we added the behavior piece to it and thumbs it up again.
Thank you.
I previously talked about this. I just really want to make sure that on the behavior piece, and I've brought this up before, is that for the last 2 years, the PCC committee has been talking through it. I think it would be helpful if, and I don't know if it needs to be a board presentation, but somewhere we get something that says, these are all the things that came out of that are currently helping teachers feel like the behavior is beginning to be addressed, because now we're gonna do this task force. And I think based on what DAC was saying tonight in their recommendations, and again, I don't know how you would do this, but is that the task force somewhere, I feel strongly that we need to make sure that parents are part of this solution, because it isn't gonna matter how great we solve this at the, we try to solve it at the school, if we're not bringing the parents in to make sure that they are also part of the solution and understand what these behavior issues are and how it's impacting the class, their learning, and the teachers that are trying to teach them. So that's really all I have to add. I mean, everything else has been covered, and it's, a lot of great work, but
We did share within negotiations, you're right, we didn't bring it to you, but we did share within negotiations the results of the survey PCC had done, as well as we worked, and that was last year. And then this year, we worked all year. We took some 4-hour sessions, maybe longer sessions, rather we usually meet 1 hour a month, and it's hard to get a lot done. So we took some longer sessions and really tried to say, going from that survey, going from our own experience, where can we get, and that was the story that negotiations started with, but you're right, we haven't brought that to you, and it certainly could be.
So would you say that overall, most teachers feel like the behavior's being addressed better?
Well, I guess we'll see when we vote.
Oh.
I think there are a number of things in there that definitely are strong to help address behavior. There are also a number of pieces in our tentative agreement, such as some of the pieces that Patty Verdon has shared with us that SSS, or the Student Support Services is bringing in, such as work through the continuous improvement teams and some of these other pieces that are getting done. But you're right, this is a hot button topic for teachers, and it is a huge recruit and retain issue, and we're gonna see if they support. I will encourage them to vote yes, because I think there's a lot in there, but we have to see it play out. I think the reworking, the reporting, so that it both is clear and it gets data that people need to know what's really happening, because people don't turn in a lot of referrals because it is so time consuming. Right. Parents don't necessarily get informed as early as they should, because the whole process is very time consuming.
Well, I mean, it's a big deal because it's their working condition, and I would think, and I would also say at some point it probably impacts their evaluations, because if there's all this behavior stuff going on, you can't teach effectively.
Right.
So anyway, thank you.
But we certainly could loop back.
Okay.
It's important to remember that that is not a unique situation to Thompson.
Absolutely.
It's across the country.
Yes.
If you talk to anybody, it's.
And our negotiations team looked at what's happening in districts right around us, because they're all addressing behavior in their negotiations, which it usually doesn't rise to that level. I mean, you're right, it's around the country.
It's around,
Yes.
Okay, Stu, did you have a question?
I have a couple. If we approve the additional planning time proposal, what will be the total number of elementary plan time minutes?
So the 24 hours added to the 300 per week average right now would end up being about 340 minutes averaged over the year per week. 24 hours times 60 divided by 36 would add about 40 minutes to average per week.
So 300 minutes of plan time will be elevated to 340. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. My other question has to do with the donate a day. The 16 hours that are available for particular needs that people have, how often can that be used by an individual?
Once a year.
But it could be used year after year?
If their colleagues believed in the need and donated to them. I don't think any of us are giving our hours to somebody that we feel is milking the system.
No, I understand that, but I thought maybe that negotiations would put a cap saying that it could only be used twice during the person's career or something like that. But that did not come up then, obviously. I'm not suggesting.
We've got their natural caps within the system. You know, that the person has to use all of their annual leave,
No, I
any other
understand
accrued,
that.
all of those things before they can use that. And if somebody's using up all their leave, they may have a situation at home where they may also be taking time off frivolously and then all of a sudden needing it, and their colleagues aren't gonna donate. They'll fall for it once, but if that continues to be a pattern,
Okay.
I think it naturally resolves itself.
So you believe there's an inner control there?
I think there is.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last item, 8.5, the opening statement to our public participation. Stu.
Yeah, I actually asked that we talk about this. Right now, the statement that's read prior to public comment does not exactly match the statement that's in the policy, and I didn't call up the policy, but there's some language in the policy about being aware that there may be students present during public participation. At the March regular board meeting, I think a number of us believed that there were some comments that were made while students were present, that perhaps it would be better if the students hadn't had to hear those. And even though there's no teeth really in saying at the prior to public participation, be careful what you say because there are students who are going to be present, maybe that reminder, which is actually part of our policy, if it were read every time that we have public participation, perhaps it would be that it would be a reminder to all of the folks who were going to make comments that they need to be aware that there may be students and children in the room, because that was the case at the end of the March meeting. So
If you
I
look,
just
it's-
ask that we consider it.
It's in red.
Okay.
And so, and that would, the proposal is to lift that right from policy and embed it in that preamble statement that's read prior to public comment. It doesn't require a board vote because it's not codified in policy, but I want, if we can implement this immediately, i.e. May 21st, but we wanted to bring it forward to the entire board to see if you were supportive of lifting that language.
I think it should say pre-K. Cause that, that's more accurate, but otherwise.
Pre-K.
I think and I think they would prefer early childhood.
That's fine
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine too,
Yeah, early
but I
childhood
just wanna
is
make sure we
early.
don't leave out our youngest kids since they're probably the
100%.
ones we're most concerned about hearing the most language.
Okay.
Any other
Comments?
thoughts?
No, I don't have anything against that at all. The question I have is, I wonder if we should have anything in there about that, the board does not respond to comments or questions during public comment. Because I think, most people know that, but every so often we get people who ask us
do
ask
questions
about that.
and
Why
they
don't you
just
answer
sit there
me?
like idiots and they look at us like we're idiots and, are expecting a response. So that would be my only thought, is that if we're gonna change it, I would
Sure.
suggest we put
I would like
a sentence about
Add
that in
that
as well.
I'm comfortable with that.
Where would you like to add it?
Maybe towards the end, cause there's that personnel matters.
Yeah.
And it seems connected to that.
Yeah, and I'm almost thinking it's probably the very last sentence, and a number of other school districts have it already, and we can just borrow that language if we
It's
know
in the
that's.
policy, I'll just pull it from the policy.
It doesn't exactly. It says something about speakers will not be acknowledged by the president. I was just looking at it right now. I haven't memorized it, don't worry. Oh look, there's our new superintendent.
Wow, that's it, you didn't waste any
Peace
time.
out.
See you later. Okay. Wow, I was fast.
But yeah, your district Eliminate it.
Nancy?
The only comment I have is, to me, that statement, it
Which
seemed.
one?
The red one, the one that's currently there. It seems vague and it seems subjective. And so what one person might think is not suitable, another person might. I mean, I think if we wanna say anything, we could say, you know, like, please refrain from using, profanity. And that's pretty clear and it's not subjective, but the statement as it
But
reads.
then what's profanity to you, to me? I mean, that's all subjective.
We actually have a very long document that goes into all of the things that make it objective, that is way too long for us to read in every meeting.
And I think, you know, what I like about the pre-K audience, it's just a reminder, like, hey, there might be children, like, you know, early education people watching, like, you're not just talking to a room of adults, so maybe, I mean, if people are gonna say what they're gonna say, no preamble or, you know, is gonna sway them, but, you know, maybe just that little reminder of just watch what you say.
See, Laura Lee, it says there, so at the end of the first one, it says like the questions requiring investigation shall be referred to the superintendent, which sort of says it, and then later it says members of the public will not be recognized by the president. So it, I mean, it sort of says it, but not
I don't think that it's quite as
explicitly.
clear.
What?
It's not as it's not as clear.
It's
as it
saying
could-
that we will
yeah.
not respond, yeah, I agree. So I.
So how do you want it stated?
I don't know, I would say like Mark said, find a
Yeah.
way that some other district says it nicely and steal it from them.
Why not?
We can't respond to you, we're
Work
sorry.
smarter, not harder.
What?
We can't respond to you, we're sorry, like,
Yeah.
we just need something simple, you're right.
We put the new superintendent's picture back up.
It got quite a start.
It was just like, oh, he's on the
It's, yeah.
So, did we resolve this?
I think
Or
we give
not.
some feedback on
I'll-
a couple things that
yeah,
we tweak.
what-
Check with others?
Yeah, I will, I'll tell you what, we'll locate some language. I will send it out to the board in my weekly update. How does that sound? So
Great,
then-
sounds good.
And then you can let me know.
And Mark, you're talking about the additional language that Alexandra is suggesting,
Correct,
not
so
the
we'll
one that
include the,
I
it's
asked
okay,
about.
like the early childhood through 12th grade, like
Okay.
suitable, we'll just take
Because
that
it's
out of
already in
policy.
policy,
And
yeah.
then I think, I mean, there are other districts that have a statement like the board will not comment on during
Yeah.
public comments.
And given this policy, if we wanna wordsmith it after we try it next meeting, we could always tweak it.
Totally flexible.
If somebody comes up with a new surprise that we need to cover at any point, we can do that.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. Anything else? Then I'm gonna say this meeting is adjourned.